Chapter 1. Lone Wolf was Wang Sheng's codename. Wang Sheng was the strongest warrior, an ace sniper, and a veteran of hundreds of battles. Wang Sheng had never imagined that he would suddenly be in the middle of the night, and that his identity would suddenly change from a lonely single dog to someone's fiancée, the heir of a family's secret training, and many other identities. Even so, Wang Sheng was not aware of any of this. To make matters worse, Wang Sheng found that the parachute on his back had suddenly disappeared. His body suddenly entered a state of weightlessness, and he began to fall. In that instant of shock, Wang Sheng began to save himself. Wang Sheng was a powerful warrior who had been through a lot of training. No matter how big the crisis was, Wang Sheng would only treat it as a test for himself, no matter how unreasonable or impossible the situation was. The strong mental fortitude of an ace sniper allowed him to calmly observe his surroundings. He was about 160 meters above the ground, more than twice the height of Earth's famous suicide site, the Golden Gate Bridge. Fortunately, there was a sizable lake below, and with a slight adjustment, he would be able to fall into it. A light flashed in the corner of his eyes, and the equipment warehouse swept past in the distance. Without a parachute, it fell heavily into the mountains in the distance. Wang Sheng could only hurriedly memorize the direction. No matter how much equipment he had, he could only think about it after he landed safely. After adjusting his posture, he spread his body wide to increase the area facing the wind, and Wang Sheng fell towards the lake below. Below the lake, a group of people were in a standoff. To be exact, it was the people of two forces. Strictly speaking, it was not a standoff. It was obvious that one side was stronger and had already taken control of the situation, while the people on the other side had become prisoners and were completely under the control of the other side. Daihuan, this is the Song family's forbidden area, and the soul in here was nurtured by the Song family's ancestor. Do you really dare to risk universal condemnation and take it by force? The leader of the weaker side was a woman, and she was loudly berating the young leader of the other side. Song Yin, I even dare to capture you. What's the big deal about barging into your forbidden area? The luxuriously dressed young man, called Dai Huan, didn't seem to have a simple background. He didn't care about Song Yan's scolding at all. He took a few steps forward and looked at the beautiful face of the woman in front of him with interest. He smiled and said, "You're the woman I like. Once you become mine, everything in your house will be mine. Who cares about the Song family and the Dai family? Be good. Tell me, among these 100 souls, which one is the one that you have painstakingly cultivated?" In fact, Daihuan was a little flustered and exasperated. She had tried her best to get such top-secret information from the mouth of the traitor of the Song family. She had originally expected to get both the woman and the money, but she encountered such a situation. Song Yin was definitely his woman. Needless to say, now that she was in his hands, he could take her in whenever he wanted. The key was the secret source spirit that the Song family had been cultivating for generations. This damn Song family, there were actually no less than 100 source spirits in this lake. At first glance, they were all trash souls. Not a single one of them looked like the one he wanted to steal. It had to be said that the Song family's concealment technique was very good. She had already ordered her subordinates to gather all the source spirits in this area of 30 feet, but among the 100 that looked exactly the same, only one was the one she wanted. If it wasn't a core member of the Song family, she had no idea which one it was. "I have a fiancé. If you dare to touch me, aren't you afraid of my fiancé and the family behind him?" Song Yin knew that she couldn't escape, but she didn't want to give up. No matter what, she had to fight for it, even if the hope was very slim. "Do you really think that I don't have spies in the Song family? Or do you think that I just relied on luck to find this forbidden area that outsiders don't know about? Among the 7 elders of your Song family, at least 2 of them are in cahoots with my Dai family. Only a little girl like you is kept in the dark." She had already reached this point, so Dai Huan definitely didn't plan on being kind. She didn't care about revealing more secrets. "If you really have a fiancé, why don't you let him see me? Don't tell me that you can have a fiancé fall from the sky." Just as Dai Huan finished speaking, she heard someone shout in the air, "Be careful." Then A figure really did fall from the sky, right into the area where all the source spirits were controlled. Everyone was stunned, but Song Yin was the first to react. She immediately smiled at Dai Huan and teased, "Look, it's my fiancé who fell from the sky." Wang Xing didn't know what was happening below, so he just chose the place where the water seemed to be the deepest. Bang! As soon as he fell into the water, Wang Sheng's legs were violently shaken by the huge impact. His body instantly broke through the surface of the water and directly entered the water. Because his speed was too fast, Wang Sheng's body directly smashed into a small red carp in the deep water. After being hit by Wang Sheng's body, the red carp instantly turned into a ball of smoke and entered Wang Sheng's body. Wang Sheng didn't even understand why. Fortunately, Wang Sheng's strong body ensured that he didn't faint, so he could clearly see his surroundings in the water. There were dozens of koi of different colors in the water, and every one of them was much bigger than the one Wang Sheng had hit. In other words, the one Wang Sheng hit was the smallest one. When he fell in the water, Wang Sheng's mouth and nose were also hit hard. A stream of blood flowed uncontrollably from his nose and dyed the water red. As soon as the blood appeared, the school of slowly swimming koi suddenly looked like they had discovered some delicious food. They crazily swam towards the blood and fought for it in big mouthfuls. Wang Sheng was shocked. He didn't care about anything else and hurriedly swam towards the shore. When he reached the shore, he saw a group of people on the shore staring at the water. Unexpectedly, no one wanted to come over and help him. Fortunately, a girl who looked like a lady from a wealthy family walked over leisurely. She stretched out her slender hand and handed it to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng didn't avoid it. He grabbed the girl's hand and used it as leverage to get to the shore. He walked a few steps towards the dry area, sat on the ground. Only then did he start to seriously look around. As a sniper, observing the environment was the first priority. The people in front of him were too strange. Not only were they wearing ancient clothes, but even their hairstyles were ancient. They were also carrying weapons. With Wang Sheng's eyesight, he could tell at a glance that they were real guys who could kill people, and not those cosplay props. The situation was very clear. One side was controlled, and the other side was strong. When Wang Sheng cast his gaze towards the lake, he couldn't help but be stunned. The school of fish had already eaten the blood flowing out of Wang Sheng's mouth and nose. At the moment, they were devouring each other crazily. Wang Sheng couldn't believe everything in front of him. Weren't those koi? How could they be so crazy? And they were devouring their own kind? Dai Huan and the people he brought with him were more and more surprised. When those source spirits started to devour each other, Dai Huan instantly understood everything. The Song family's ancestor really did put in a lot of effort. They didn't use a trick at all. Every single one of the useless souls here was actually a part of a true super source spirit. However, they needed to be stimulated by blood to devour each other. In the end, only the strongest source spirit would be left. Thinking about it, what kind of concept was a source spirit that could devour other source spirits to grow? Dai Huan was about to jump up in joy. At this moment, he only had eyes for the source spirits that were devouring each other. As for the person who had just fallen down, who was that? Song Yan's fiancé? Who cared? Song Yan was also stunned. This forbidden area and the source spirits inside were all a trap. As the first wife's daughter, Song Yan was very clear about this. But what was going on in front of her? Source spirits devouring each other to grow? How was that possible? Unlike Dai Huan, who only cared about the source spirits devouring, Song Yin was more interested in this fiancé that had fallen from the sky. This lake was at least a few miles wide, and it was completely empty. There wasn't even a single tall tree. Where did Wang Sheng come from? Wang Sheng didn't move. He was trying to ease the numbness in his legs from falling into the water. At the same time, he was also observing everyone and their surroundings. Of course, what he paid the most attention to were the carps that were devouring each other. While they were devouring each other, the remaining carps no longer looked like carps. Instead, they had turned into monsters with the bodies of fish. They looked very fierce. All of the monsters were very crazy. After eating one, they immediately rushed to attack another one. They didn't stop at all. Not long after, there was only one thing left alive. Its body was covered in spikes. It looked like some kind of deep-sea fish, and it was an ugly and fierce monster. After eating all of its own kind, the monster's body unexpectedly released an extraordinary aura. Dai Huan was pleasantly surprised when he saw this. After the monster happily swam around in the circle, he was pleasantly surprised to let people collect the source spirits. When Wang Sheng heard these words, his heart skipped a beat. It was obvious that this was not a concept that belonged to Earth. However, Wang Sheng didn't say anything or do anything. He just sat quietly and watched as a very arrogant person beside Dai Huan used a strange wooden plate and some things that might be a formation to collect the monster. The process of collecting the source spirit looked very mysterious. The monster directly turned into red smoke and drilled into the wooden plate. The wooden plate displayed a picture of a monster. The wooden plate was also surrounded by a circle of black. Black. It really is a 9-star source spirit. Dai Huan fondled the wooden plate for a long time. Only then did she put the wooden plate into a special box. 7 iron guards sent it back to the Dai family immediately. The person carrying the box was the arrogant person. He and the 7 guards next to him responded in unison and flew away. When Wang Sheng saw the 8 people leaving, he was shocked. How strong must their stamina be to be able to move so fast? Having obtained the source spirit of her dreams, Dai Huan was in a good mood. She turned around and looked at Song Yan with a smile on her face. When she saw Song Yan's pale face and disbelief, she felt even more proud of herself. After admiring Song Yan for a while, she ordered Song Yan stays. Kill everyone else. When the order was given, the person who reacted the fastest was Wang Sheng. With a shake of his arm, the Glock 17 on his thigh appeared in his hand. He fired at Dai Huan, who had given the order. Bang! A bloody hole appeared between Dai Huan's eyebrows. Dai Huan's expression was even more shocked than Song Yan's. She stood there in a daze for a while, then suddenly fell backwards. Do you really think you're some big shot? Seeing Dai Huan fall, Wang Sheng curled his lips and said, Tui, what the hell? Chapter 2. From drawing the gun to shooting accurately, Wang Sheng's record was 0.5 seconds. However, when he made his move, Wang Sheng felt that he had made a breakthrough again. He was faster than usual, and he estimated that his shooting speed was about 0.4 seconds. Wang Sheng was not a bloodthirsty person. In fact, as a sniper, he sometimes had to disguise himself to blend into the crowd when he was on a mission. It was not unheard of for him to suffer some minor grievances. However, it was only limited to minor grievances. He had never had to act like a coward when the other party clearly stated that they wanted to kill him. Therefore, as soon as he heard Dai Huan's order to kill everyone, Wang Sheng immediately made his move. The guards reacted very quickly. Just as Dai Huan gave the order, almost the moment Wang Sheng opened fire, at least 5 swords had already slashed their targets' throats. Apart from Song Yan, there was only one other person who looked to be in his 50s on Song Yan's side. The old man's movements were very fast. In the blink of an eye, the shackles on his body were easily undone by him. When the guard who was watching over him stabbed his throat with his sword, he had already grabbed the hilt of the guard sword with one hand and smashed his throat with the other. The one who moved as quickly as the old man was Song Yan, who looked delicate. She was as quiet as a virgin and as quick as a rabbit. When she attacked, she was fierce and shrewd, like a completely different person. She also seized the long sword of a guard, but her movements were even more elegant. She directly reversed the blade and slashed the guard's throat, unusually smoothly. Wang Sheng killed Dai Huan, the old man killed the guard, and Song Yan killed the guard. All of this happened within a second after Dai Huan gave the order. However, when the gunshot rang out, everyone, including Song Yan, looked at the bloody hole in Dai Huan's head and saw her fall. They were all stunned. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief as they looked at the dead Dai Huan and then at Wang Sheng, who had calmly spat on the ground. They felt that the scene before them was incredibly fake. How was this possible? Who was Dai Huan? He was the young master of the Dai family in West River District and the legitimate son of the current family head. As long as nothing happened to him, he would definitely be the next family head. The fact that he dared to kidnap Song Yin, the daughter of the Song family's patriarch and the next patriarch, showed how powerful he was. The elders of the Song clan were well aware of what was going on, but they acted as if they hadn't seen anything. They allowed him to take Song Yin away and swagger into the Song clan's forbidden area. How could this be described as a person with monstrous power? It had always been Dai Huan who killed people. Who would dare to kill Dai Huan? It wasn't that no one had done it before, but those fellows were killed by the Dai family's experts before they could even get within 100 meters of Dai Huan. How could the high and mighty young Master Huan of the Dai clan, the world-famous young Master Huan, be killed by an unknown barbarian, and under heavy protection? In the eyes of the Dai and Song families, Wang Sheng's current appearance was indeed that of a barbarian. He was dressed in jungle camouflage from head to toe. Other than the barbarians, no one would like it, let alone wear it. He wore a helmet on his head, a pair of goggles on his face, and a large, hard mask that acted as a gas mask. The jungle paint smeared on his face looked like a tattoo at first glance. This nondescript attire, tattoo, and such a large area of tattoo on his face. Other than a barbarian, what other possibility could there be? Young Master Dai Huan was killed by a barbarian. Not only were Song Yin and the old man stunned, but the Dai family's guards were also in a frenzy. They were responsible for protecting young Master Huan. Even if they used their toes to think, they would still be fine if young Master Huan died. Without a word, the guard threw away the messy things in their hands, took out their weapons, and charged at Wang Sheng. It wasn't just Wang Sheng. Everyone here, including the young mistress of the Song family and the old man who was still alive, were also on the list. Young Master Huan was already dead, and the young mistress of the Song family was the woman that young Master Huan fancied. How could she be alive? Unfortunately, the guard's reactions weren't as fast as Wang Sheng. Since he had already killed Dai Huan, would Wang Sheng spare the lives of these guards? The Glock 17 in his hand displayed its incredible firing speed and accuracy. Bang, 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 bang. All the Dai family guards at the scene, except for the ones surrounding the woman and the old man, fired a shot at Wang Sheng. Only 13 Dai family guard were left. Of the 6 who charged at Wang Sheng, 5 were killed by Wang Sheng in one shot before they could even react. What shocked Wang Sheng was that the remaining guard's skills were truly terrifying. He was able to dodge Wang Sheng's fatal shot in the nick of time. Even if he didn't dodge the bullet, he still managed to avoid a fatal wound. Fortunately, Wang Sheng knew that he couldn't catch them by surprise. His target was the enemy's heart. Even though he missed the heart, the bullet still hit the guard's chest, and he was seriously injured. Wang Sheng added another shot, and the only one who didn't die was also shot in the head. He couldn't be more dead. Then, Wang Sheng began to look at the situation of the 7 guards surrounding the old man and the woman. Wang Sheng was shocked at what he saw. The old man originally had 4 opponents, but now there was only 1.5 left. 2 of them had been decapitated, and they couldn't be more dead. One of the remaining 2 had an arm chopped off right in front of Wang Sheng's eyes. The old man's sword was pointed at the last guard's chest. Looking at this scene, Wang Sheng's mind spun, and an unimaginable idea popped up. If the sword was slightly tilted to the side, the effect would be better. As soon as the thought occurred to him, Wang Sheng saw the old man's sword being blocked by his opponent and knocked aside. If he stabbed in the direction Wang Sheng had thought of just now, the other party wouldn't even have a chance to block it. What's going on? Wang Sheng believed that he was an expert among experts in modern firearms, and he was also an expert in unarmed and saber combat. However, he never thought that he would have such foresight in the way of the sword. However, what was with that thought just now? Wang Sheng looked around and saw the woman's movements not far away. This time, it was even more obvious. In an instant, Wang Sheng was able to determine the direction and strength of the woman's attack, as well as the result of her attack. Furthermore, he was able to clearly determine which part of the woman's body was exerting force and how it was doing. As for the improvement, it had already flashed in his mind the moment he saw her attack. Not only did Wang Sheng see the woman's attack, but he also saw the woman's opponent's movements with just a glance. From the goal to the result, he was able to analyze it so thoroughly. The next second, Wang Sheng saw the result. It was exactly as he had predicted. There was not the slightest difference. This was definitely not his original ability. Wang Sheng was now certain that it was not his original ability. This was a brand new ability that he had obtained after coming to this strange world. He had no idea how he had obtained it. Could this be your gift to me? Wang Sheng thought about the owner of that pair of beautiful eyes and thought to himself, I've come to your world, but where are you? Why did you let me kill you? Just as Wang Sheng was confused, Song Yin anxiously shouted at the old man, Uncle Old You, they took Origin's soul away. Miss, go and greet the son-in-law. The old man suddenly reacted amidst the thick smell of blood and smoke. He shouted at Song Yin, I'll report to the elders immediately. Wang Sheng had just put the pistol back into the holster on his thigh when he suddenly heard the words son-in-law. He could not help but stagger and almost fall to the ground. What the hell was son-in-law? Song Yin, who had just killed the 3 guards of the Dai clan without batting an eyelid, suddenly heard this form of address. Her snow-white face instantly turned bright red. Could it be that Uncle Old You could not tell that she and Dai Huan were just pretending to be courteous, and that they were all lies? Why was she inexplicably involved with a barbarian? Was it that difficult for her to marry? Although she was blushing and bashful, Song Yin understood that Uncle Old You was right. Wang Sheng had descended from the sky and killed Dai Huan easily. He was definitely someone worth roping in. Eldest Miss Song glanced at Uncle Old You, who had just spoken. The old man's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding, and he nodded at Song Yin. Song Yin did not hesitate any longer. She walked to Wang Sheng's side and said resolutely, Let's go. Wang Sheng had already poured out the water in his military boots, put them back on, and tied the shoelaces. When doing all this, there was no change in his expression. His hands were steady, and his breathing was steady. It was as if he had not killed those people just now. If you had moved your sword a little bit to the right when you killed the second person just now, and your speed was a little bit slower, you could have killed him in one move. Wang Sheng clapped his hands and stood up. His clothes were wet, and it was uncomfortable to wear them. He stood up and looked at Song Yin. The first sentence he said to Song Yin was to tell her that the momentum of the sword just now was not enough. Song Yin immediately fell into deep thought. In fact, her heart was once again in turmoil. The killing swordsmanship just now was the secret of the Song clan. She had used it too hastily, so it was not in place. However, Wang Sheng had hit the nail on the head and pointed out her shortcomings. Could it be that Wang Sheng had a good understanding of the Song clan's swordsmanship before? Uncle Old You was just about to leave, but he was also stunned when he heard Wang Sheng's words. He had watched Song Yin grow up, and he had also paid attention to Song Yin just now. It was indeed as Wang Sheng had said. However, how can an outsider know about the core swordsmanship of the Song clan? Wang Sheng also realized that the world he had come to was probably really an extraordinary world. If a woman like Song Yin was like this, then it could be imagined how terrifying those experts who she did not dare to resist before must be. There was no need to even mention that old man. Wang Sheng would have taken it as a normal thing for him to behead Wang Sheng with a single sword strike. However, when that old man landed a punch on his opponent's throat, had anyone ever seen the horrifying sight of that pitiful wretch's spine being torn in half? At this moment, Song Yin and Uncle Old You both had another layer of speculation about Wang Sheng's background. Could it be that this barbarian, who descended from the sky, was really an expert from one of those hidden families? However, looking at the strength of Wang Sheng's movements, he did not seem to be an expert, so it was really hard to guess. Descending from the sky, mysterious hidden weapons, eyes that could see through the flaws of moves, and strange attire. All of these gave Wang Sheng a layer of mystery. Chapter 3. Song Yin and Old Fish were about to go their separate ways, but Wang Sheng did not follow Song Yin directly. Instead, he walked to young Master Dai Huan's corpse and searched it for a while, searching for everything that he thought he could use. Song Yin and Old Fish were speechless at the sight of him looting the corpses for loot. Old Fish was in a hurry to report to the elders, so he could only give Song Yin a helpless expression and take his leave, leaving Song Yin alone to watch as Wang Sheng looted the corpses of the guards. He didn't even spare the few servants who had died on Song Yan's side. What happened just now? Tell me in the shortest possible time. Wang Sheng asked Song Yin while collecting the loot. Since he had come to this strange world, he definitely had to know what kind of world it was and what had happened. The young master of the Dai family wanted to rob me and my family's things. You appeared and killed Dai Huan and his entourage. That's all. Although Song Yin could not stand Wang Sheng's behavior of looting the dead, she was very cooperative and explained the sequence of events in one sentence. The Dai family is more powerful than your family. Wang Sheng asked out of curiosity. In fact, he did not need to ask to know. However, Wang Sheng felt that there was something wrong, especially when he saw old Yu. So he asked the question in his heart. In the past, our two families were about the same, but something happened to our Song family recently, so. Song Yin did not give a long explanation, and simply explained the problem with one sentence. What's with those fishes that devour each other? Is that an origin spirit? Wang Sheng took off the robe from Dai Huan's body and packed a bunch of things into a big bag. He asked while using the sleeves of the robe to tie it up. The robe was not bad, and he could tell at a glance that it was worth a lot. It was common sense that money was needed everywhere. Wang Sheng had heard about the concept of an origin spirit from the girl in his dream. Before coming here, Wang Sheng had always thought that it was just a dream, but now he understood that it was not a dream, but a reality. That's an origin spirit. Song Yin was getting a little impatient, but she still explained, anything that can absorb spirit chi can be cultivated. The black one is the highest grade of 9 stars. The one you bumped into is the worst. It doesn't even have a grade. After a pause, he added, when you fell into the water, I saw you catch a small fish. A mediocre source spirit. Wang Sheng wanted to laugh. It wasn't like Wang Sheng hadn't encountered the concept of source spirit before. From the woman in his dream, Wang Sheng had heard of this term. He was very clear that the origin spirit only represented one's aptitude or one's future potential. It did not represent one's true strength. There are many people with high IQs on Earth, but not all of them could get high scores. Those with low IQs were not necessarily bad students. Why didn't you act earlier? After packing up the things, Wang Sheng stood up and asked, if you had acted earlier, those people wouldn't have been able to take that 9-star source spirit away. Song Yin looked at the strange mask and goggles on Wang Sheng's face, as if she wanted to see something from his eyes. Unfortunately, she couldn't see anything, so she could only say resentfully, if that soul refiner and the 7 guardians had fought, we would have died 10 times over. Wang Sheng finally understood. The reason why Song Yin and Song Laoyu had been so obedient before was that they had been intimidated by that soul refiner and the 7 guardians. As soon as they left, they immediately attacked without mercy. This woman was not simple. My name is Song Yin. Song Yin waited for Wang Sheng to carry the pile of spoils on his back, and then she introduced herself. Smoke, as in smoke. What's your name? In front of strangers, Song Yin still kept a little secret. Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng had nothing to hide. He didn't have any background in this world, so it was not a big deal to tell others his name. After saying that, Wang Sheng pulled the mask and goggles over his helmet, revealing his face. Song Yin thought that she would see Wang Sheng's real face, but what she saw was a face covered in oil paint. She couldn't help shaking her head, turned around, and left. Wang Sheng hurriedly followed. On the way, Wang Sheng learned about the surrounding situation from Song Yin. This was a distant branch of the Song family in Tianhe. Song Yin wasn't a member of the Song family here, but a distant cousin who had joined them. Although it was only a distant branch of the Song family in Tianhe, when Wang Sheng followed Song Yin to the place, he discovered that this town called Shanglin City was only a small town, but it had a population of no less than 100,000 people. One could imagine how large the real Song family in Tianhe was. Soon, Song Yin's experience proved that Wang Sheng's action of collecting the spoils was a foresight. Miss Yin, this isn't appropriate. An old man who looked like a steward spoke in front of Song Yin. He raised his head and looked at the two of them with his nostrils. It's not that our Song family can't take in an outsider, but he's a barbarian. He has to have a name, right? Everyone had probably already confirmed that Wang Sheng was a barbarian. His face was covered in oil paint, and his clothes were all weird. If he wasn't a barbarian, what else could he be? He's my fiancé, Song Yin replied to the steward calmly. The steward's eyes widened, and he no longer spoke in the same tone as before. He looked at Song Yin, and then at Wang Sheng, whose face was covered in oil paint, with an expression of disbelief. However, even though he was surprised, he didn't intend to agree just like that. He had already started shaking his head. Sir Steward, you've worked hard. This is a local product from my hometown. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Wang Sheng grinned, revealing his white teeth. He casually picked up a sword from the dozen or so swords stuck in the bundle and handed it to the steward. Then, he took out a jade pendant from the bundle and handed it to the steward. The sword was definitely a good one. How could the sword of Dai Huan's bodyguard disgrace young Master Huan? The jade pendant was even more exquisite. Just this jade pendant alone was worth several years of income for an ordinary person. The astonished expression on the old steward's face instantly disappeared, replaced by a smile. So it's the son-in-law. Well said, well said. A courtyard with 3 rooms was given to Wang Sheng. The steward even generously gave Wang Sheng a portion of the clan's rations, which was the same as Song Yan's. You're quite smart. Song Yan looked at Wang Sheng speechlessly. She didn't expect that even using the title of her fiancé wouldn't work. Instead, this brat solved everything with a sword and a jade pendant. Song Yan helped Wang Sheng find his courtyard and arrange his belongings. Then, she urged Wang Sheng to wash his face, wipe off all the paint on his face, and change out of his strange clothes. Only then did Song Yin nod in satisfaction. What a handsome young man. It's a pity that his hair is too short. Young man, Wang Sheng was a little surprised. He joined the army at the age of 18, joined the special forces at the age of 21, and completed his training at the age of 24. He had fought for the country for more than a decade. He was an uncle in his 30s, so how could he be called a young man? However, when Wang Sheng glanced at the bronze mirror beside him, he also realized that something was wrong. His face had actually become so young. It was as immature as when he joined the army at the age of 18. What's going on? Is this another gift from her? As a sniper, no matter what kind of situation he faced, he would be able to keep his cool. Wang Sheng quickly accepted this fact. No matter what, becoming younger was a good thing, wasn't it? Following that, Wang Sheng mentioned that he wanted to understand more about the source spirit and cultivation. Song Yin was too lazy to explain so much to someone who didn't have the slightest foundation. So she brought Wang Sheng to a special school for children under the age of 10 to learn about the source spirit and cultivation. Entering the school, of course, he had to first test the star level of his source spirit. There was a mirror with handles on both sides for Wang Sheng to hold. The mirror showed Wang Sheng's source spirit type and star level. It was no different from what Song Yin had guessed. It was an unranked remnant spirit, a carp. Scram! A teacher wearing tight clothes with a face like a teacher pointed at the door of the school and fiercely scolded, an unranked piece of trash. He's still so old, yet he dares to come here. The teacher's loud voice startled many people in the school. Some curiously poked their heads out of the window, while others directly ran over to see what was going on. There were adults, but most of them were children. This was a school for beginners. It was a school for children under the age of 10 to learn about the source spirit and cultivation. When they heard that it was a trash remnant soul who wanted to be enlightened, everyone present, be it adults or children, burst into laughter. Even those who didn't understand the source spirit knew that being unranked meant that one could only be an ordinary person at the lowest level. Not to mention that he was just a remnant spirit. He really was trash among trash, and couldn't be any worse. Amidst the laughter of the adults and children, Song Yan's face was as red as a red cloth. On the other hand, the main character, Wang Sheng, had a face of indifference. He curiously looked around, and his eyes occasionally flashed across a few people. As an ace sniper, If he didn't even have this little bit of mental endurance, then he would be a joke. Almost in the farewell of the people in the school, Wang Sheng and Song Yin left the school in embarrassment. Many people on the street heard the noise and watched them. As word of mouth spread, more and more people knew about this absurd thing. Song Yin and Song Yin had to quickly return to Wang Sheng's temporary residence. In less than an hour, the whole town heard about it. Miss Song Yin of the Song family came back with a barbarian, claiming that he was her fiancé. However, this barbarian's fiancé had only merged with a lousy remnant spirit, and he wanted to come to the school for enlightenment. It was a big joke. In the peaceful town, this joke was the only thing that could bring joy to everyone. How could a lousy remnant spirit be Miss Yan's fiancé? How dare he be Miss Yan's fiancé? Many young men of the Song family who had always admired Song Yin were now jealous because their sweetheart had been taken away. They were all filled with anger and rubbed their palms, waiting for the chance to teach this arrogant barbarian a lesson that he would remember for the rest of his life. Chapter 4. In Wang Sheng's empty room, Song Yin and Wang Sheng sat cross-legged on the floor. No one would laugh at Wang Sheng for being a waste anymore, and the two of them could communicate in detail. I have something important to do. I wanted you to start from scratch, but I didn't think it through. Song Yin apologized to Wang Sheng with a sullen face. It seems that I have to explain it to you in simple terms. Well, that's fine. Wang Sheng didn't care. It didn't matter who told him. The spirit is a special form formed by the soul of a demon beast after its death. It can be upgraded according to the original species of the demon beast. Song Yin began to give a simple introduction. If it can be upgraded once, it's 1 star, and if it can be upgraded 9 times, it's 9 stars. And if it can't be upgraded even once, it's like you. If it's incomplete, it's a remnant soul. No wonder the teacher called me a waste. With a remnant soul, it's like adding snow to the fire. My luck is really good. Wang Sheng laughed and teased himself, but there was no sign of the decadence of a waste on his face. The spirit can spontaneously absorb the surrounding spiritual energy. If coupled with the appropriate cultivation method, it will greatly increase the speed of absorbing spiritual energy. Song Yin ignored Wang Sheng's self-deprecating remark and continued. Every time a source soul is upgraded, there will be an additional 1 to 9 acupoints. The more acupoints there are, the faster it can absorb spiritual energy. Therefore, an advanced spirit also means a stronger future potential. I understand. Wang Sheng nodded. However, the spirit only represents talent and potential. It doesn't represent real combat power. Song Yin knew that Wang Sheng liked to be concise, so her introduction was not complicated. Different spirits have different performance, but everyone has a convention to define the number of times the spirit has been upgraded. Those who have leveled up once are in the first stage, those who have leveled up twice are in the second stage, and so on. Understood. Wang Sheng nodded again and asked, Then Miss Yin, what realm are you in now? What realm is old you in? I'm considered to be at the peak of the 2nd degree realm. Song Yin didn't hide anything and replied straightforwardly. Uncle Old You is in the middle of the 3rd degree realm. Thinking of the ferocious Uncle Old You who had punched out the opponent's head along with half of his spine, Wang Sheng's heart couldn't help but sink. According to Song Yan's realm, Wang Sheng's new ability allowed him to keenly infer the realm of Old Yu's opponent. However, the scene was still like that after one punch. It was really chilling. Will the remnant's soul last forever? Wang Sheng did not fully understand the concept of remnant soul, so he asked again. The remnant soul is actually not a big problem. Song Yin answered very seriously, there are some pills such as the essence enhancing pill, essence consolidating pill, and so on. All of them can make up for the fragmented soul and solidify it, allowing it to become a normal origin soul. Even if your source spirit is the smallest among them, at most you can use a few pills to recover it. What's really troublesome for you is the unranked level. This time, Wang Sheng didn't even need to ask what would happen if he didn't make it. Song Yin continued, You've just experienced it. You will become a waste in everyone's eyes. No status, no prospects, no future. Almost everyone could look at you with a condescending, contemptuous, pitiful, or cruel gaze. Even some shops wouldn't let you enter, lest you dirty their floors. Even a child will think that you're a waste, a disgrace. There's no use in hiding, unless you don't live among people for the rest of your life. Otherwise, they will use the origin mirror to check your soul and your grade. Almost every high-grade shop will use this method. Don't refuse because they will decide what grade of goods you can buy from them based on your soul and grade. She did not know why, but Song Yin told him all the possible tragic experiences of a mediocre source soul in one breath. She just wanted to see how Wang Sheng, who had not shown any signs of disappointment, would react. Wang Sheng's performance was really too calm, so much so that Song Yin felt that it was not the hot-blooded state that a young man should be in. Even if I kill Dai Huan? What surprised Song Yin was that Wang Sheng did not show the slightest bit of disappointment or frustration. There was not even the slightest change in his expression, as if this was not a big deal. His tone was as calm as ever, as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Even if you kill Dai Huan, Song Yin shook her head, you can't prove it to everyone. Other than me and Uncle Old You, who would believe it? Would you also think that way? Would you also think that I'm a waste? Wang Sheng did not ask others. He only asked Song Yin's own opinion. Would she also think that Wang Sheng was a waste? Even if you didn't kill Dai Huan, I wouldn't think that way of you. Song Yin had already passed the most emotional moment. When she answered this time, she was very calm and natural, but I alone can't represent anything. I don't think there's much difference in how others see you. As she spoke, Song Yan's mind flashed with the superb hidden weapon technique that Wang Sheng had casually used to kill Dai Huan and a few guards, as well as Wang Sheng's terrifying eyes that could see the problem with her swordsmanship at a glance. How could such a person be a waste? If everyone looks down on me, doesn't take me seriously, and ignores my existence, that would be a good thing. Wang Sheng was a sniper. From the characteristics of his profession, Wang Sheng could not wait for everyone to not notice him, to ignore him, so that his mission could be completed more easily. I couldn't ask for more. These were Wang Sheng's heartfelt words. He was not being perfunctory, nor was he venting, but he really thought so. A sniper that everyone was on guard against was definitely the sniper that died the fastest. But in Song Yan's ears, these words took on a different meaning. An unknown fire suddenly appeared in Song Yan's mind. How can you not strive to improve yourself? Song Yan's anger was inexplicable. Wang Sheng was even more baffled when he heard it, and Song Yin herself did not know what was going on. Perhaps it had something to do with Song Yin introducing Wang Sheng as her fiancé, or perhaps it had something to do with Song Yin herself. But Song Yin herself did not realize it. Wang Sheng could be considered a divine soldier that descended from the heavens when Song Yin was in desperate straits, pulling her out of the abyss of despair. Song Yin really did not want her benefactor to become a degenerate cripple. Fortunately, Song Yin immediately realized that she had lost her composure and quickly calmed down. Sorry, I lost my composure. Can an origin soul be changed? Wang Sheng waited for Song Yin to completely calm down before using his usual calm tone to ask this question. Song Yin thought for a moment, then gave Wang Sheng an answer. Generally speaking, after an origin's soul fuses with it, it can't be taken out. But Wang Sheng took the initiative to help Song Yin, then signaled for her to continue. But it's not absolute. Song Yin rolled her eyes at Wang Sheng, then continued. There's a way to erase the origin soul in a person's body. When she rolled her eyes at Wang Sheng, Song Yin inadvertently revealed a flirtatious expression, almost causing Wang Sheng to lose focus. At this time, Wang Sheng truly began to look at Song Yin with the eyes of a man, not the eyes of a soldier. Song Yin was very beautiful. Even if she was wearing an ordinary dress with thorns, she still had a breathtaking feeling. Especially when she showed a frown and a smile in a certain situation, it really had the potential to bring disaster to a country. No wonder Dai Huan would forcefully take her. Song Yin was indeed beautiful. Seeing Wang Sheng staring at her in a daze, Song Yin felt a little proud. This barbarian has finally realized my natural beauty. At least I can be saved. Is the price very high? Wang Sheng was almost mesmerized by Song Yan's beauty. Fortunately, he had an extremely strong will and immediately returned to reality. Very hot, Song Yan nodded. This was not a secret, so there was nothing to hide. Perhaps the 5 great clans and the imperial court combined might just barely be able to gather 1 or 2 sets of the required materials. And this is just the materials, not counting the experts that will be needed. If you're a big shot, you might be able to do it. At this time, Song Yin very much hoped that Wang Sheng would immediately reveal his identity as a disciple of the hidden clan, then smile and tell her that this was a small matter. Unfortunately, Song Yin was once again disappointed. Wang Sheng only casually waved his hand, as if none of this had anything to do with him. Then so be it. Or do you want to talk about how to cultivate an origin spirit? The enlightenment is very simple. You just have to concentrate, get rid of all distractions, and work hard to communicate with your origin spirit. Song Yin casually replied. Wang Sheng did not think much of it. She had to show Wang Sheng his strength. There was something that Song Yin did not tell Wang Sheng. The higher the level of the origin spirit, the easier it was to communicate with the host, and vice versa. The first time she had communicated with her origin spirit, it had taken her more than 10 days. That was already an amazing talent. Wang Sheng was carrying a mediocre trash origin spirit. If he could communicate with it within 2 years, it would already be considered a blessing from his ancestors. After communicating, your consciousness will enter the origin spirit space. In the origin spirit space, you'll be able to construct the origin spirit's form and living environment, as well as the conditions for the origin spirit to level up. Song Yin added, after all of this is done, the enlightenment is complete. You can choose a suitable cultivation technique to start cultivating. I'll try. Wang Sheng directly closed his eyes. Let's see if I can communicate with it. Song Yin snorted. If it was so easy to sit and think, then wouldn't the world be full of origin spirit experts? After taking a few deep breaths, Wang Sheng quickly entered a state of calmness that others could not sense. This was something that Wang Sheng had learned during the sniper patience training. It was a kind of breathing method that allowed Wang Sheng to quickly enter a calm state and also allowed him to quickly recover his physical strength. It sounded similar to the communication method that Song Yin mentioned. It was a good time to try it out. Song Yin did not think much of it at first. However, after Wang Sheng closed his eyes for less than 10 minutes, Song Yin keenly felt a trace of spirit qi begin to slowly gather around Wang Sheng's body. It had only been 10 minutes, and this barbarian's body was still a mediocre, trash origin spirit. How is this possible? Song Yan's face showed an incomparably shocked expression. She had really seen a ghost. This guy was simply a monster. Chapter 5. Even in a fierce battle, a sniper needed to calm down in an instant. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to catch those fleeting opportunities. Similarly, a calm state could make a sniper's hand steadier and his aim better. The reason why Wang Sheng could become a trump card was because of this. His strong psychological quality allowed him to calm down quickly, and it also allowed him to empty his mind and body. After calming down, he had actually completed most of the work. All that was left was to increase the communication with the original soul, which didn't consume much of Wang Sheng's energy. In particular, when Wang Sheng was on Earth, he had come into contact with a lot of Buddhist and Taoist breathing techniques in order to train. He also understood the visualization techniques of Buddhism and Taoism. Therefore, the last step became simple. In a state of tranquility and emptiness, it was the easiest to produce a sixth sense. Calmness and wisdom were born. Naturally, he could sense the existence of the original soul. After feeling the existence, he could easily outline the lines of the original soul using the visualization method. A thin and small white carp suddenly appeared in a certain space in Wang Sheng's mind. The carp was different from the red carp he saw in the lake. First, it didn't have color. Second, it wasn't real. It was just an outline outlined by lines. Third, it was missing a part in the middle. Although it looked terrible, Wang Sheng could really feel the image of his original soul. However, when Wang Sheng's consciousness flashed to the side of the carp, he suddenly saw a gray shadow. The gray shadow was like a sitting figure, sitting motionlessly at the edge of the empty space. It was soundless like a ghost. Even someone as bold as Wang Sheng, who was able to keep his composure, was startled. Wang Sheng's well-trained nerves allowed him to calm down once more. In the past, he had encountered situations that were more exciting than this. He had been fighting on the battlefield for more than 10 years. He didn't know how many times he had experienced the scene of bullets flying a few centimeters above his head. The most dangerous time was when a bullet left a mark on his scalp on his head. Even at that time, Wang Sheng's heartbeat didn't exceed 75 beats per minute. The gray shadow did not move. At least on the surface, it did not seem to be a threat. The sharp Wang Sheng quickly realized that the gray figure's sitting posture was exactly the same as his. With a thought, his consciousness immediately appeared in front of the gray shadow. After a careful examination, Wang Sheng discovered that the gray shadow was just a mass of chaos. It looked like a human, but it had no facial features, and its head was just a lump. However, Wang Sheng discovered that there seemed to be something in the shape of a small broken fish in the gray shadow's head. Not only that, but the little fish-like thing was also moving as if it was breathing, and the gray gas around it was flowing rhythmically into its body along with its movements. Was this teaching him how to use his spirit to absorb spiritual energy? Subconsciously, Wang Sheng's thoughts wandered in this direction. What did this little gray figure have to do with the heaven-defying vision that suddenly appeared in his mind? Just as he was thinking about that, the gray figure suddenly moved. A series of swift and fierce attack movements were completed as smoothly as flowing water. Wang Sheng instantly remembered that this set of movements should be what Song Yin would do if she could perfectly face an enemy. As his mind turned, Wang Sheng began to imagine Song Laoyu. The little gray figure also changed its movements, changing into Song Laoyu's style, and even made the action of breaking the enemy's throat with one punch. However, it was obvious that the little figure's movements did not need to transmit a lot of force to Wang Sheng. Thinking about how Song Laoyu had punched out half of the enemy's spine, it was obvious that she had used too much force. The strength displayed by the little figure felt like it should be just enough to kill the enemy, but not so bad that it would look bad. When Wang Sheng thought of drawing his spirit again, the little gray figure instantly returned to its sitting posture, still in the form of a small fish that was absorbing the gray gas. Wang Sheng was now certain that his new ability was completely related to this mass of gray gas. He immediately followed the movements of the little gray figure and visualized the little fish's movements. The outline of the little fish was very simple, and because of this, Wang Sheng did not need to spend too much energy to easily realize the little fish's rhythmic movements. Afterwards, Wang Sheng felt a trace of spiritual energy begin to gather on the little fish's body. What Song Yin saw and felt was exactly Wang Sheng's state at this moment. How long has it been since then? Looking at this young barbarian, Song Yin really did not know how to describe her feelings at this moment. Compared to Wang Sheng's monstrous ability to communicate with his spirit in just 10 minutes, Song Yin suddenly felt that the adjectives that people used to describe her were so ear-piercing. Whether it was the world's famous geniuses or proud sons, when faced with a monster like Wang Sheng who had descended from the sky, they should all be ashamed and die. This was already beyond Song Yin's understanding. With such a terrifying talent, if he had a high-level spirit, how brilliant would his future be? Song Yin did not know whether she should envy Wang Sheng or cry for Wang Sheng. In short, it was a pity. She just stared blankly at Wang Sheng until Wang Sheng suddenly stopped and suddenly opened his eyes. "You woke up so quickly." Seeing Wang Sheng suddenly open his eyes, Song Yin, who was staring at Wang Sheng, was once again shocked. When an ordinary person successfully communicated with their spirit for the first time, which one of them would not need 2 to 4 hours to manifest their spirit in the spirit space, Wang Sheng did not even take half an hour. How was this possible? Could it be that Wang Sheng did not manifest it, and what she just saw was just an illusion? Impossible. Song Yin immediately rejected her own thoughts. He could already absorb spiritual energy into his body. This was clearly a sign that he had completed his first manifestation. But wasn't this too fast? Wang Sheng's eyes looked at Song Yan's face and then around her. He did not find any traces of Song Yin moving, so his heart slightly relaxed. He calmly replied, "I saw that little fish, and there was nothing strange, so I woke up." Regarding the matter of the gray shadow, Wang Sheng did not want Song Yin or anyone else to know. As expected, Song Yin cried out in her heart, but she did not show much of it on her face. She only said with slight surprise, "You're too fast." Fast. Wang Sheng did not understand the concept of fast or slow, so he simply asked, "How long does an ordinary person take?" "Me, the adults all said that I was a genius." Song Yin gave a bitter smile as she pointed at herself and replied, "I studied for 3 months in school before I began to communicate with my spirit. The first time I successfully communicated with it, it took me half a month. How long do you think an ordinary person would take? Looks like my efficiency is not bad." Wang Sheng looked at Song Yan's bitter smile and only curled his lips as if he did not care. Song Yin was choked by this not bad evaluation, so she could not say anything. From start to finish, Wang Sheng had only listened to her talk about some half-baked things. It could be said that she did not even understand the most basic concept of spirit, but in such a short period of time, she had actually achieved an effect that ordinary people would not even dare to imagine. She was so exaggerated, yet she only said it was not bad. If it was not bad, then how terrifying would she be? What she had been proud of since she was young had been smashed to smithereens by Wang Sheng in just half an hour. Song Yin really wanted to let the teacher who had mocked Wang Sheng, pointed at Wang Sheng's nose, called him trash, and told him to scram know all this. Then she would ask him what kind of performance was not considered trash. By the time Song Yan's emotions calmed down, it was already 10 minutes later. Wang Sheng had been sitting there the whole time, quietly watching. He was as calm as ever, without a trace of panic on his face. "All right, that's it." When you have your spirit, the environment in which it grows, as well as the conditions for it to level up, and when it is all vivid and lifelike, and when your spirit can move freely, then the enlightenment will be complete. Song Yin said the last bit. "Of course, I'm afraid you won't have the conditions to level up." "Conditions to level up?" Wang Sheng raised his eyebrows and asked. "Yes, the conditions for the spirit to level up. For example, if a mountain eagle wants to level up into a falcon, it needs to fly over a tall mountain surrounded by strong winds. That expert surrounded by strong winds is the condition to level up. The spirit must become stronger and stronger, and only after flying over can it complete the level up. If a forest snake wants to become a flying snake, it needs to jump over trees that are very far away. This is also true." Song Yin gave 2 simple examples to illustrate. "However, I've never heard of a carp being able to transform." Song Yin shook her head in regret. "I'm afraid that the best result in the future is that your little carp will become a big carp." "What a pity." "Don't worry about me." Wang Sheng smiled at Song Yin. He could feel that Song Yin really felt sorry for him. However, Song Yin would never have thought that in Wang Sheng's world, there was a legend of a carp leaping over the Dragon Gate. And Wang Sheng had already decided that when the conditions were right, he would create a Dragon Gate in his spirit space. The girl in his dream was able to transform her sparrow spirit into a phoenix under Wang Sheng's guidance. So how could Wang Sheng let his carp become a waste? "I'm going to kill a monster beast in 3 months." Song Yin didn't want to continue on the topic of spirit, lest Wang Sheng lose his confidence the more he knew. She cleverly changed the topic. "When the time comes, I hope you can help." The best way to give a person confidence was to let them know that they could help. Song Yin was using this method now. "No problem." Wang Sheng was just as Song Yin expected. He readily and confidently agreed. As long as he was confident, Song Yin thought to herself, "That's right. I have a question I want to ask." Just when Song Yin felt that she should leave Wang Sheng alone, Wang Sheng asked, "What kind of pill can cure a remnant spirit?" "Peiyuan pill." Song Yin quickly replied. "It's not convenient for me right now. After we kill that monster beast, I'll help you buy a large bottle of Peiyuan pill." "Thanks." Wang Sheng smiled as he thanked her. He reached out and patted the bag wrapped in embroidered clothes. I believe that these things should be enough for me to buy some, right? Chapter 6. Song Yin left to busy herself with her own affairs. Wang Sheng watched as Song Yin left and closed the courtyard door. Now that he was alone, Wang Sheng could finally quietly think about what had happened today. He had come to a strange world, and he had become younger. There was a gray figure in his mind, as well as an inferior remnant soul of a small carp. He had become the fiancé of this unbelievably beautiful Song Yin. All of this sounded like a dream to him. As a sniper, he had to be good at finding clues from all the clues. So far, Wang Sheng had already confirmed a few things. First of all, Song Yin was definitely not just a cousin who lived under someone else's roof, as she did in this town. Old Fish and Dai Huan's attitude towards Song Yin was definitely not that of treating an insignificant person. Why would Song Yin admit that he was her fiancé? If it was an excuse in the beginning, then it was probably still an excuse now. Wang Sheng knew himself well. He would not indulge himself to the point where a beautiful woman would throw herself at him. Song Yin must have done this to let someone or some people know. She did not even hesitate to be ridiculed at Meng Shui. There was only one goal, to use him as a shield. As for the help she said 3 months later, perhaps Song Yin really had the intention to ask for his help, but Wang Sheng would not take it seriously. He was just an inferior kid who had not cultivated much. What could he help her with? This house and this courtyard could be said to be Song Yan's way of thanking him for saving her life. Wang Sheng could also live there with a clear conscience. He had just arrived in this world, so there was no need to sleep on the streets. Carrying the bag of embroidered clothes, Wang Sheng went straight to the market. On the way to Meng Shui, Wang Sheng saw a large market. He believed that it would be able to get rid of these things. Many people recognized Wang Sheng on the way. It could not be helped. His signature buzz cut was different from everyone else here. It could be seen at a glance. Quite a few people were pointing at him, and Wang Sheng could hear words like not up to standard, overconfident, trash, and so on. However, Wang Sheng remained indifferent. What others said was none of his business. Trying to provoke a sniper with words was not an easy task. Just as Wang Sheng had said, if everyone here had the same opinion of him, Wang Sheng would be more than happy to see it. Walking to the largest Bao Qing Yutang shop on the street, Wang Sheng swaggered in with his bag in hand. A waiter came up to greet them attentively. Although everyone knew that Wang Sheng was just a piece of trash with a worthless remnant soul, whose gold wasn't gold, the waiter's greeting wasn't any worse than the way he greeted the instructors. I want to sell these things. Do you accept them? Wang Sheng casually lifted a corner of the bag, revealing a pile of weapons and all kinds of exquisite accessories. He then closed the bag again. This time, it was enough for the waiter to see more clearly. The smile on his face became more enthusiastic, and he invited Wang Sheng to the back. Not long after, Wang Sheng walked out of Bao Qing Yutang with a satisfied expression, changed into an ordinary linen bag, and walked out. Bang! As soon as he walked out of Bao Qing Yutang, Wang Sheng was hit by a young man's chest. Wang Sheng did not retreat, but the man had already walked up to him. In a low voice that only Wang Sheng could hear, he said, "Brat, how dare you steal yen from me? Go back and wash your neck." Wang Sheng rolled his eyes at the other party and sneered. Without saying anything, he picked up his things and leisurely walked back to his courtyard. In the main room in the backyard of Baoqing Yu Hall, a middle-aged man who looked like a shopkeeper was respectfully reporting to a woman with a white veil sitting at the table. "Miss, we've received a batch of things, some of which have the Dai clan's insignia. The most luxurious sword is very similar to the one used by the Dai clan's young master, Dai Huan." Similar? The white-veiled woman frowned, as if she didn't like such an inaccurate description. Exactly the same. The shopkeeper knew his young Mrs. Personality and hurriedly added, "If not for the fact that Dai Huan is always accompanied by the 7 guardians of the Dai clan, making it impossible for ordinary people to get close, this lowly one would suspect that this is the one, the dust-proof pearl on the hilt. Could it be that there are 2 identical pearls in the world?" The white-veiled woman chuckled. "Could it be that you also think that the young man is a worthless piece of trash so the things he brought are definitely not the real thing. The shopkeeper's expression changed, and cold sweat instantly flowed down his face. In fact, this was exactly what he was thinking. How could something brought by a worthless piece of trash really be the Dai clan's young master's sword? Send someone to investigate. The white-veiled woman's cold voice sounded. Recently, the Dai clan and the Song clan have always felt that something is about to happen. Perhaps we can find their whereabouts from this sword. Yes. The shopkeeper heaved a sigh of relief and replied. He hurriedly went to make the arrangements. Only the white-veiled woman and her servant girl were left in the room. Wang Sheng returned to his courtyard. As expected, the strand of hair that he left on the door lock when he left had disappeared without a trace. Someone had entered his courtyard. With a somewhat disdainful smile, Wang Sheng entered the room as if nothing had happened. There was only the camouflage uniform and helmet that Wang Sheng had changed out of. There was nothing else in the room. Even if someone came in, what could they see? The things that truly belonged to Wang Sheng were the liquid bulletproof vest, the military knife, the Glock 17, and even the goggles and mask. If those people wanted to rummage through it, they would at most find that the helmet was a little strange. What else could they find? In the linen bag were some daily necessities such as oil, salt, vinegar, pots and pans. Since he was going to live, these things were indispensable. Of course, these things weren't worth much. What was really valuable was the bottle of foundation elixir in Wang Sheng's arms. Previously, Wang Sheng thought that foundation elixir was like the nourishing medicine on earth. There was a limit to its price, but he didn't expect that the elixirs in this world were so expensive. One foundation elixir cost 10 gold coins. Ordinary people couldn't earn that much even if they didn't eat or drink for a year. The sword that Dai Huan carried with her was very good. It was not at the level of a divine weapon, but it could be regarded as one of the best ordinary weapons. However, it was only worth 5 foundation-enhancing pills. Among them, the most valuable thing was the dust-repelling bead on the hilt. There were all kinds of jade pendants and other things in a mess. After calculating, 5 more foundation elixirs were converted. A total of 10 foundation elixirs should be enough for Wang Sheng to make up for his remnant soul. Wang Sheng's soul was still inferior. It didn't change, but it wasn't incomplete. Everyone laughed at him because of his inferior soul, but no one laughed at his remnant soul. However, since it was a soul of this level, who would be willing to spend a lot of money to buy foundation elixirs to make up for it? He chose the most comfortable position to sit. This position was not only comfortable, but it also slightly avoided the door. He could pull out the pistol in the strong holster at any time and attack at any time. This was Wang Sheng's habit. It was necessary to be more vigilant in a strange place. Wang Sheng took a look at one of the foundation elixirs and put it into his mouth. Then, he relaxed his mind and quickly entered the visualization state. With the experience from the first time, the second time was not difficult at all. An abundant spiritual energy rose from Wang Sheng's abdomen and crazily rushed into the space of the soul. Wang Sheng could clearly feel that the spiritual energy rushed directly to the incomplete outline of the small fish. This wave of spiritual qi was many times more powerful than the first time Wang Sheng had visualized it. It was no longer a strand of spiritual qi, but a large amount of it. Seeing that the incomplete part of the small fish began to have a little more lines, Wang Sheng knew that the foundation elixir was working. It was no wonder that people never cared about the remnant soul and only cared about its level. It turned out that the remnant soul was not a problem that could not be solved. Seeing the lines on the small fish's body being mended bit by bit, Wang Sheng finally felt relieved. It was only a matter of time before the remnant soul was mended. It would take some time to absorb the huge amount of medicinal power. Wang Sheng focused his attention on the gray figure again. The figure was still motionless, sitting like Wang Sheng in the outside world. Wang Sheng began to concentrate on the most common military boxing that he had practiced. As soon as he started thinking about the fist technique, the little gray silhouette on the other side immediately reacted. It stood up and practiced the military boxing seriously. Then it began the second time. However, although the little person's second round of military boxing looked serious, many parts of it were a mess. Every move and stance had been greatly tampered with. His movements were much sharper, and the direction in which he attacked had also changed a lot. If an ordinary soldier who had practiced military boxing saw this, he would shake his head immediately. However, Wang Sheng understood that the small gray figure had completely changed the military boxing technique, which focused on capturing and injuring the enemy, into the killing fist. Every move was meant to take the enemy's life. It was no longer the capturing fist that showed mercy. After the small figure practiced the boxing technique once, the changes were very clear to Wang Sheng as long as he recalled them. It was as if they had grown in his mind. Just as Wang Sheng was about to practice the military killing fist that he had learned in the special forces again, the huge medicinal power suddenly stopped and disappeared into thin air. Wang Sheng was stunned and immediately understood that the medicinal power of one foundation elixir had been consumed. He looked at the outline of the small fish and saw that only a small part of the missing part had been mended. It was less than 10%. This showed that the foundation elixir was effective, but more foundation elixir was needed to completely repair the soul. According to the ratio, the remaining 9 elixirs might not be able to completely repair the incomplete soul. Wang Sheng did not think too much about it. No matter how much it was, he would make up as much as he could. His consciousness left the soul space. He ate another foundation elixir and continued. Wang Sheng gave the gray shadowy figure a thorough optimization of the military killer fist he had learned, the usage of the military knife, as well as the methods of using cold weapons he had learned. When he deliberately took out the methods of using pistols, rifles, and sniper rifles, the gray shadowy figure remained indifferent. These firearms had never appeared in this world. The small gray figure was not an immortal, so it was impossible for it to even know these things. However, the assassination with rifles was an exception. The small gray figure had also modified it. However, no matter how Wang Sheng looked at it, he felt that it was the way to use a cold weapon, a spear, instead of a rifle. It could be said that the small gray figure could optimize almost all cold weapons and barehanded combat methods into killing the enemy. It was completely based on killing instinct. It was no wonder that when Wang Sheng saw others attack, he could automatically judge many things. It was because of this small gray figure. Chapter 7. After figuring out the abilities of the little gray shadow, Wang Sheng continued to check the effects of the Peiyuan pill. He had taken 3 Peiyuan pills in a row. The huge amount of spiritual energy even made Wang Sheng feel uncomfortable. Wang Sheng understood that this should be the maximum amount of Peiyuan pills he could take in a day. After all, the Peiyuan pill was still medicine, and medicine was 30% poisonous. It could not exceed a certain dosage, otherwise good things would become bad things. Wang Sheng had seen this many times on Earth. If it was not necessary, Wang Sheng would not eat himself to death. The 3 Peiyuan pills made up for about 1/5 of Wang Sheng's soul defect. At the same time, it gave Wang Sheng a feeling of exuberance. All the muscles in his body seemed to be full of strength. It was uncomfortable, and he needed to release it. Without saying anything, Wang Sheng got up and began to do push-ups. After doing more than 200 standard push-ups, Wang Sheng did not feel tired. According to the training on Earth, this should be the limit. What was going on? In fact, it was not until Wang Sheng did more than 400 that the limit appeared. Wang Sheng maintained the frequency and did 500 before getting up. His arms and chest were hot, but he did not feel tired. Sit-up squats. Wang Sheng did a series of movements, all of which exceeded the limits of what he could do on Earth. In the end, he felt that the amount of exercise was just right. At this point, Wang Sheng believed that his physical fitness seemed to have doubled in this day. Although he had not tested the change in speed, the feeling when he pulled out the gun let him know that there must have been a change. This should be the effect of taking the Peiyuan pill or the effect of the spiritual energy nourishing the body. The sky outside was completely dark and the whole world was quiet. Wang Sheng did not exercise anymore. After a short rest and stretching, he continued to sit in the relatively safest corner of the house. He touched the gun handle with one hand, maintained a posture that could jump at any time, and closed his eyes to rest. Although he said he was resting, Wang Sheng still maintained enough vigilance. In this strange world, Wang Sheng did not dare to sleep like a dead pig. It just so happened that he had just learned visualization today, so Wang Sheng immersed his mind into the soul origin space to replace deep sleep. Without the essence-nurturing pill to provide spirit chi to make up for what it lacked, the little fish slowly absorbed the wisps of spirit chi in the surrounding space, according to the movements Wang Sheng had learned from the little gray shadowy figure the first time he saw it. Wang Sheng believed that this continuous absorption process was also a form of cultivation. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, Wang Sheng opened his eyes and jumped up silently. Without making a sound, he disappeared into the darkness outside the door. Early in the morning, before the sky was even bright, Wang Sheng had already rushed back to the vicinity of his small courtyard. Just as he was about to enter, he suddenly heard a few faint sounds. Outside the gate of the small courtyard, 3 figures were sneaking over from the other side of the street. Each of them was holding a wooden stick as thick as a forearm, and they were making their way to the door of the small courtyard that Wang Sheng lived in. Damn it! A barbarian has become Miss Yan's fiancé, and he's even a piece of trash. What a waste. Lower your voice. Let's go teach him a lesson and let that barbarian back off. And while no one is paying attention, don't use weapons, just use a stick. Be careful not to kill him. The 3 of them whispered to each other as they groped their way forward. The one walking at the back felt a little itchy on his neck and reached out to scratch it. Suddenly, his mouth and nose were covered by someone. Without making a sound, his body began to softly collapse. The 2 companions in front of him did not seem to notice that one of their companions was gone, and they continued to tiptoe forward. After a few steps, the feet of the one at the back suddenly jumped into the air. His legs flopped a few times in the air, and then he stopped moving. All of this happened in the air, and other than the sound of clothes fluttering, there was no other noise. Be careful. That's where the barbarian lives in front. The companion in front of him heard the sound of clothes fluttering behind him and hurriedly reminded him. He looked at the small courtyard and saw that there was no movement. Only then did he relax and let out a long sigh. Just as he let out that sigh, the young man suddenly realized that the bottom of his neck was cold. His body immediately tensed up, and his whole body tensed up. He stood on the spot, not daring to move at all. That coldness was not from the cold wind, but from the edge of a sharp weapon. The young man had combat experience, so he was not unfamiliar with this feeling. However, this was the first time someone had placed a weapon on his neck without making a sound. What do you want? An unfamiliar, deep voice rang in the young man's ears. Immediately after, the sharp blade on his neck moved up a little, and the young man had no choice but to raise his head even higher. Miss Yan's fiancé is a barbarian. We're not convinced, so we want to go over and teach that barbarian a lesson. The young man clearly felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. His companion did not make a sound at all, so he did not dare to act rashly and answered obediently. Needless to say, it must be because of jealousy. A few young men who secretly liked Song Yan were not convinced that the barbarian Wang Sheng had become Song Yan's fiancé, so they wanted to go over and teach him a lesson. Wang Sheng had already mentally prepared himself for this. From how Song Yan was so enthusiastic about arranging a place for him to stay, he knew that there would be a lot of trouble ahead. As expected, it was only the next morning, and there were already people at his door. The 3 young men were not particularly vicious. They just wanted to teach Wang Sheng a lesson. Thinking about it, there would be more trouble in the future, and it might be all kinds of tricks to deal with Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng did not want to accompany a group of 17 or 18-year-old youngsters to play this kind of youthful game. You guys are lucky today. Wang Sheng had a headache, but he did not know how to cut off everyone's thoughts at once. He could only give the young man a hard slap and knock him out. The strength of these guys was actually not bad. At least when Wang Sheng plotted against the first and second youngsters, their struggle was no worse than Wang Sheng's. It was just that they were caught off guard and encountered the professional Wang Sheng, so they were quietly knocked out. Wang Sheng had no doubt that if it was the Wang Sheng on Earth, he might not have been able to knock down the three of them so easily. The reason why he could succeed was absolutely related to his successful visualization yesterday and the tempering of his body with the help of the foundation pill. The three young men woke up from their coma and found that they had been thrown into an inconspicuous corner of the street. The three of them got up and looked at each other, not knowing what to say. They had originally planned to teach someone a lesson, but before they could even see the person, they were knocked down and thrown here by an unknown expert. What was going on? Who did it? Almost needless to ask, they were sure that it was the barbarian they were going to teach a lesson to. But no one hoped that it was him, and in the current situation, anyone who cared about their reputation could not say it at all. The three of them could only agree that no one was allowed to tell anyone about this shameful thing, and then they left quickly with their tails between their legs. Fortunately, no one saw it, so it was not too embarrassing for them. Except for the three of them and Wang Sheng at that time, no one knew what had happened to this dawn. Early in the morning, in a big house in the town, a young man woke up from his sleep. It was a young man who bumped into Wang Sheng at the gate of Baoqing Yutang, Song Tianze, a member of the local Song family. This was his home. Since Song Yin came here, Song Tianze had been shocked and admired him so much that he would marry no one but him. He didn't know how many times he had fought with other young men who also liked Song Yin secretly. He had long regarded Song Yin as his exclusive property, and no one could get close to him easily. Unexpectedly, Song Yin went out and brought back a barbarian who claimed to be his fiancée. This was intolerable. Song Tianze was so angry that his lungs almost exploded, especially when Song Tianze knew that Wang Sheng had just merged with a lousy remnant soul. His anger rose to the highest point. A piece of trash dared to lay his hands on the person he loved? Because of this, Song Tianze took the opportunity to warn Wang Sheng fiercely at the gate of Baoqing Yutang when Wang Sheng went out. If Wang Sheng knew what was good for him, he would break up with Song Yin as soon as possible. Otherwise, Song Tianze didn't mind letting Wang Sheng know what regret was. As soon as he opened his eyes, Song Tianze felt itchy on his neck. At first, Song Tianze thought it was the hair of the woman beside him, so he casually brushed it a few times, but it didn't work. In a daze, Song Tianze sat up and scratched the thing on his neck with both hands. It was a note. Song Tianze didn't take it seriously. He just thought it was blown to his neck in the middle of the night and threw it away. His movement woke up the woman beside him. The woman sat up and helped Song Tianze put on his clothes first, not caring about putting on her own clothes. At this time, Song Tianze really woke up. He casually glanced at the note he had just thrown away and found that there were words on it. When he picked it up and looked at it, his pupils immediately shrank several times. "I've washed my neck. What about you?" This was the content on the note. Just a few simple words almost scared Song Tianze to the point of peeing. From the literal meaning, it should be Wang Sheng's tone. But when did Wang Sheng put this note on his neck? Song Tianze didn't know it at all. That was to say, if Wang Sheng put a dagger instead of note, Song Tianze's head would have been moved in his sleep. At the thought of this, Song Tianze's legs softened and he directly collapsed to the ground. What kind of ability was this? How'd he do it? Why didn't he hear anything? The woman beside him helped Song Tianze to sit on the bed, and Song Tianze was still in a state of shock. The cold sweat on his head flowed down like a stream, and his eyes were absent-minded for a long time before they slowly focused again. The woman beside him could completely feel the uncontrollable trembling of Song Tianze's body. She had never seen her master frightened like this. Chapter 8. Along with Song Tianze's father was also frightened. There was also a note on the desk in his father's bedroom, but it didn't ask him to wash his neck. Instead, it asked him to discipline his son, or else he wouldn't send him a note next time. For an ace sniper whose strength had increased several times, it was too easy for him to sneak into such an ordinary house. At the thought that Song Tianze could come to their house and take their heads away at any time, the father and the son were extremely frightened. In all these years, no one had ever made them so frightened. although their family is a distant branch of the Song family. But in this small place, it is also an unquestionable overlord. There are a group of servants and guards in the family, but even so, no one found when the note on Song Tianzi's neck appeared, let alone see the figure. The father and son of the Song family began to fly into a rage. The servants and guards who were on duty that night were scolded, and some of the guards who were supposed to be guarding the inner residence were whipped and tied up in the courtyard of the Song family's residence, dripping with blood, as a display to the public. At dawn, many people were waiting to see Wang Sheng make a fool of himself today. However, to their surprise, the young men who vowed to teach Wang Sheng a lesson yesterday didn't show up since early in the morning. Some people inquired about them and said that they were sick and stayed at home with a cold. Alas, unfortunately, they couldn't watch the show anymore. Some people didn't give up and waited for Song Tianzi, the most ruthless person in the Song family, to make a move. It was said that yesterday, Song Tianzi had gone to Baoqingyu Hall to see Song Yan's fiancée. It seemed that he had even threatened Wang Sheng. No matter what, he was going to teach Wang Sheng a lesson today. However, Song Tianzi's performance was even more disappointing. From the beginning to the end, Song Tianzi didn't go out of his house. Some nosy people inquired about it and found that Song Tianzi pulled his arm while practicing martial arts last night and was recuperating at home. It was over. They couldn't watch the show anymore. Many people were disappointed, but they didn't want to provoke Wang Sheng. Everyone knew that Wang Sheng was Song Yan's fiancé. If they embarrassed him in public, they would be blacklisted by Song Yan. A smart person would not do such a thankless thing. Wang Sheng didn't know any of this. He only knew that from today onwards, there would be at least a group of people who wouldn't dare to provoke him. This would give him a few more days to improve his physical fitness and find the equipment warehouse. For the past 2 days, Wang Sheng did not do anything else but pondered over the time. Then, he began to swallow the foundation elixir. After the effect of the elixir passed, Wang Sheng began to exercise his muscles without any equipment. 1 essence cultivating elixir plus the time for training could last him 4 to 5 hours. 3 essence cultivating elixirs a day was enough for Wang Sheng to spend the whole day. After 3 days, Wang Sheng finally swallowed all 10 essence enhancing pills. He had made up for almost half of the defects of little fish, and his physical fitness had at least doubled compared to the first day. Wang Sheng could now easily do a set of 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 abdominal curls without rest. In just 4 days, Wang Sheng's training on Earth had completely surpassed Wang Sheng's common sense. In terms of strength and endurance, Wang Sheng had improved several times compared to when he was on Earth. On the 5th day, Wang Sheng leisurely went out of the house in his camouflage uniform with a helmet in his hand. After walking around on the street, he bought some dry food and went straight out of the city. In the forest, wearing his own combat uniform was the most comfortable. As soon as Wang Sheng stepped out of the city, a few people with ill intentions chased after him in the dark. Before, Wang Sheng stayed in the yard and didn't come out, so it was not convenient for them to find trouble with him. Now that Wang Sheng took the initiative to go out of the city, he couldn't blame them for being ruthless. The Song family was very big. In this small town, Song Tianzi was not the only one who was infatuated with Song Yan. At least hundreds of young people of the same age had feelings for Song Yan. Therefore, as soon as it was heard that Song Yan had a fiancée, Wang Sheng became the public enemy. Everyone was bound by hatred and must teach Wang Sheng a lesson. Song Tianzi and those sneaky boys who had been taught a lesson by Wang Sheng wouldn't say it out loud. How could they tell such a shameful thing to others casually? If no one knew about it, it wouldn't have a good deterrent effect. However, when a group of people followed Wang Sheng into the forest, they were all dumbfounded. In a mountain camouflage uniform, Wang Sheng was like a chameleon in the forest. The mottled color soon made his figure disappear in the forest. Although the guys who followed him were only more than 100 meters behind, they couldn't see Wang Sheng anymore. Dozens of people showed up from all directions, looking at each other in dismay. Who could know that such a ridiculous thing would happen when they followed a lousy boy? So many people lost him as soon as he entered the forest. It was an unprecedented big loss. Shame. A group of masters who claimed to be at the first or even the second degree actually lost track of a lousy barbarian. What was this? However, what could they do if they couldn't see Wang Sheng? This group of people had no other way but to look at each other in dismay. At least half of them had no choice but to turn around and go back. Anyway, it wasn't that Wang Sheng wouldn't come back. When he came back, they could find a chance to teach him a lesson. As for the remaining half, they felt that their tracking skills were not bad. Even if they couldn't see Wang Sheng, they could still catch up to him by following the tracks he left behind. After chasing for a few miles, the group had already split into several groups. Every group of people felt that the tracks they discovered were the real ones and were left behind by Wang Sheng. Hence, everyone split up and chased after their own target. After Wang Sheng set up a few distracting traps, he quickly followed a small stream down the mountain. He found a place at the foot of the mountain where it wouldn't be easy to leave his tracks. After going over 2 mountain peaks, there was no one within 200 meters behind him. The bright spot on the combat terminal showed that he was still several tens of kilometers away. After going over a few more mountains, he would reach the demonic beast territory. The equipment warehouse was obviously deep inside. This area was only entered by those demonic beast hunters or top exponents who wanted to gain experience. The insect repellent injections that he injected into his body before he set off on Earth were still effective. That kind of injection could make Wang Sheng's body emit a smell that was extremely unpleasant to insects for half a month. After carefully observing with binoculars on top of a mountain, Wang Sheng once again quietly blended into the forest. After Wang Sheng's figure entered the demonic beast territory for a while, a ghostly figure appeared at the place where Wang Sheng was originally standing. This was a real tracking expert. The distracting traps that Wang Sheng had set up did not make him fall for them. Instead, he took advantage of the opportunity when everyone else was distracted to follow him alone. The tracker was very puzzled. Wang Sheng walked in front without stopping at all. As for the tracker himself, he was already annoyed by the insects in the forest. He had only chased for a few dozen miles, and almost every part of his body that was exposed to the outside was undamaged. No one expected that Wang Sheng would enter the forest. There were many things that the tracker was not prepared for. This time, he suffered a lot, but could not say a word. After figuring out the purpose of Wang Sheng's coming out, he would make this guy beg for death. Wang Sheng, who was in front, did not seem to be aware that someone was following him. He did not play any tricks along the way and went straight to the destination. A few dozen miles of mountain road, if it was on Earth, would take more than a day. But now, the average speed of Wang Sheng's army was at least 50% faster than on Earth. It only took him less than half a day to reach the destination. His luck was good. There were no particularly powerful demonic beasts along the way. Of course, it was also related to Wang Sheng's careful avoidance of the habitat of the ferocious demonic beasts. A lot of survival knowledge from Earth was still very useful in this world. The military green camouflage equipment warehouse lay quietly on the ground in the forest. It fell from the sky and directly smashed into the ground. However, military things were sturdy. It was smashed into this state, but it was not damaged at all. The wireless signal was still working normally. The original intention of the equipment warehouse was to protect the equipment inside. It was safe, waterproof, and shockproof. Even if it fell quickly, it would not be a big problem. He pulled the equipment warehouse out of the ground and quickly entered a long string of passwords on the panel. After waiting for the equipment warehouse to make a soft beep, Wang Sheng entered another set of passwords. With a slight click, the automatic lock of the equipment warehouse opened from the inside. Wang Sheng opened the cover of the equipment warehouse and began to check the equipment in the warehouse one by one. The slender, complete box in the equipment warehouse was a sniper rifle, Chaitak M200. Because there were 2 layers of protection inside and outside, Wang Sheng did not immediately check the sniper rifle. Instead, he organized the other things. A first aid kit, 3 emergency injections, 2 smoke bombs, 2 arson bombs, or incendiary bombs for scattered anti-tracking mines, 2 planar directional mines, 2 remote-controlled high-explosive bombs, a week's military rations, 7 energy bars, 2 plates of 24 water purification tablets, and a backpack. That was all. There were not many things, and the gun was limited to 20 kilograms. Anymore, and it would not be a mission, but a weight-bearing exercise. After sorting these things into categories and securing them in the backpack, Wang Sheng then began to check the sniper rifle. The gun was in good condition. Even if it fell from a height of more than 100 meters, the 2 layers of anti-collision system ensured that the sniper rifle remained intact. The bullets in the 3 magazines were carefully selected and were also in good condition. The mission this time was a little special, so the bullets prepared were not ordinary sniper rifle bullets. They were all armor-piercing bullets. There were 7 bullets in 1 magazine, a total of 21 bullets, including the magazine. Everything was in good condition. There was a prepared backpack inside. Wang Sheng quickly divided the things into the backpack. Then he put a batch of stones that he picked up along the way into the equipment warehouse, covered it, and started the self-destruct program of the equipment warehouse. After doing all this, Wang Sheng quickly left with the backpack. After running a few hundred meters, he quietly hid and began to wait. Chapter 9. There were 2 options for the self-destruction of the equipment compartment. The other one was a more thorough corrosive self-destruct. Once activated, the corrosive liquid inside would be released, completely corroding the equipment warehouse, leaving not a single trace behind. The other was an explosive self-destruction. There were several differences between explosive self-destruction. One was time explosion self-destruction. As the name suggested, it would explode when the time was up. The other was vibration fuse self-destruction. Once activated, it would automatically detect the surrounding vibration. Within 10 meters, if it felt the vibration caused by the movement of a human body weighing more than 50 kilograms, it would explode. The third was simpler. Remote self-destruction. The individual combat terminal would act as the remote control. Wang Sheng chose the third one. At this moment, more than one figure had flashed out of the equipment compartment. The fastest one thought that he was the only one who could keep up with Wang Sheng. However, he didn't know that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind it. There were several people following him. How could finding Wang Sheng's tracks compare to following an experienced tracker? Especially when this guy thought that he had succeeded and didn't pay attention to the movements behind him. The equipment compartment was too special and eye-catching, so much so that everyone's attention was immediately focused on it. Apart from other things, the flashing red light was enough to make people's eyes turn red. What kind of gem could give off this kind of flashing light? If you were to bring this gem back, wouldn't those socialites and noble women fight over it with bloodshot eyes? A red light was enough to drive people crazy, but this red light was just a decoration on such a big box. It could be imagined how precious the thing in the box was. No wonder Song Yin claimed that this guy was her fiancé. With such a precious thing, even Song Yin, the eldest daughter of the Song family, would have to bow to it, not to mention Song Yin, the daughter of the Song family side branch. Who cared about where Wang Sheng was now? They had to get the wealth in front of them first. If they didn't take it, they would be punished. The guy who was closest to them went crazy when he saw the box. Without thinking, he slashed at it with his saber. It was such a big box that he wanted to see what was in it first. His movements were so fast that the experts who were chasing him couldn't even stop him in time. They could only watch helplessly as the broadsword chopped down on the box. However, the scene of the chest being split open and the treasures scattered on the ground did not appear. With a ding, the broadsword bounced up high, leaving only a white dot on the equipment storage. There was not even the slightest gap. The group of people immediately became even crazier. Swords couldn't hurt it, so this box was actually a good thing. At this moment, they naturally couldn't let that guy slash them a second time. They all revealed themselves and surrounded the equipment warehouse and that guy from all directions. There was no need for these people to stop him. After seeing that his attack was ineffective, the guy who had attacked stopped. Wouldn't it be a pity to destroy such a good thing? Moreover, he might not be able to destroy it. Next, everyone guarded a direction and prepared to act at any time. He couldn't let go of such a good item so easily. Not to mention the treasures inside. Just this chest alone would definitely be a master-grade armor that was invulnerable to swords and spears. No one could remain indifferent after seeing such a good thing. Those who could see it had all rushed out. If it didn't come out now, they might not even get a penny when it came to splitting the loot. How could they do that? Just when everyone was on guard against each other and hadn't decided whether to fight immediately or discuss a suitable way to split the loot, Wang Sheng didn't give them the chance. After walking for a few hundred meters, Wang Sheng circled around and returned to the vicinity. In this dark forest, the infrared binoculars played a shocking role. More than 10 red figures had already scattered around the equipment warehouse. There were no longer any humanoid creatures in that direction. Wang Sheng put down the binoculars and went behind a big tree. He opened the screen of the combat terminal and pressed the button on the screen to detonate. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. Countless echoes began to reverberate between the mountains. Boom! 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 The sound became weaker and finally disappeared. Even though he was hiding behind a big tree that could cover his whole body, the shockwave of the explosion still made Wang Sheng's ears ring. If Wang Sheng had not been prepared and opened his mouth in time to make a few swallowing motions, the sound of the explosion alone would have been enough to deafen him for a long time. Holding the Glock 17, Wang Sheng came out from behind the tree and slowly walked to the original location of the equipment warehouse. He had only been cultivating for a few days, yet his physical fitness had increased exponentially. Those experts who had been cultivating for more than a decade, or even decades, might be able to withstand the power of the explosion. The explosion was very powerful, but it had to be said that Wang Sheng's caution made sense. Even under such an explosion, there were still 2 experts who survived. Although they were alive, they only had half of their bodies left. At such a close distance, the explosion had caught them off guard. The power of modern technology still played a powerful role. Basically, the 2 who were alive were no longer a threat. Wang Sheng slowly walked over and had already seen everything. Ignoring the 2 guys lying on the ground and moaning, Wang Sheng first searched for the broken corpses around the equipment warehouse. The equipment warehouse, together with the small stones of suitable size that Wang Sheng had picked up along the way, was simply the most densely packed, fragmented, high-explosive landmines. At least the effect of the explosion was still very satisfactory to Wang Sheng. The weapons of the few people had been reduced to all kinds of broken pieces and were useless. He only found some things that weren't easily damaged on the corpses. What was strange was that among the 7 corpses, 5 of them had a very unique black metal plate on them. The metal plate wasn't big, about the size of the military plate around Wang Sheng's neck, but it was very thick, about half a finger thick. It looked more like a modern jade plate. There was a very complicated pattern on the front, and there were 2 twisted characters in the middle. Wang Sheng looked at it a few times, but he couldn't recognize what these complicated and twisted traditional characters were. The reverse side was also engraved with a few words, some with 2 words and some with 3 words. Every metal plate was different. This time, Wang Sheng recognized one of them. It was a very simple word, ding-e. The others, Wang Sheng couldn't recognize. Holding the 5 black metal cards, Wang Sheng muttered to himself as he slowly made his way to the one with the heaviest injuries. The other guy had a broken leg and an arm. At this moment, he could still lean on the tree and moan. He wouldn't die immediately. However, this guy had lost half of his body. If he didn't hurry and ask, he might die immediately. Tell me, who are you people? Wang Sheng squatted down in front of the guy who still had 1 breath left and slowly asked, I believe that you didn't know me before, and I didn't know you either. We have no enmity between us, so you must have been ordered to track me. Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't say it. You're going to die anyway. Your employer must have given you a huge benefit to keep your mouth shut for him, even at the moment of your death. Interrogating a confession was also a field of study. It included all kinds of physiology and psychology. It couldn't be made to submit just by making people suffer. For people who had faith in perseverance, pain was not very useful. On the contrary, psychological pain was more difficult to bear. Wang Sheng's words hit the weakness of the other party's psychology. He was only hired for money, and he wasn't completely loyal to his employer. His employer didn't save his life, and he didn't need to use his life to protect it. Therefore, he decisively betrayed his employer. Why was he going to die? But his employer could still live comfortably? I didn't expect a few of us to be in the same industry. With a bitter laugh, the guy with half of his body signaled for Wang Sheng to help him up and lean against a tree. At the same time, he signaled for Wang Sheng to take out a metal plate similar to the 5 from before. We are all from the same industry in the Carefree City. I didn't expect to die here. When this person mentioned the Carefree City, Wang Sheng immediately recognized the 2 words on the metal plate. It was the word carefree. This metal plate should be the symbol of the Carefree City that each person belonged to. The words behind it should be their names. Wang Sheng had no idea what the Carefree City was or what it did. However, he could guess that it was an organization that accepted money to do things for others. Who knew? These people might even kill people. Just the fact that so many people were hired meant that they did the dirty work. I was hired by the Song family's 3rd elder to investigate the cause of young master, Dai Jiahuan's death. The person with half of his body looked at Wang Sheng and suddenly laughed bitterly. I heard that you were the one who killed him. That's why I'm following you. Are you surprised? Wang Sheng nodded. He wasn't surprised at all. This 3rd elder should have found out from Song Laoyu that he killed Dai Jiahuan, so he sent people to investigate. However, he didn't know why he didn't send his trusted subordinates to investigate such a secretive matter. Instead, he sent people from the Carefree City to investigate. Needless to say, the people who died belonged to the Carefree City must have been commissioned by various parties to investigate him. The Song family would investigate him, the Dai family would definitely investigate him, and even Song Tianza and Bao Qin Yutang might send people to investigate him. It wasn't strange at all. No wonder these people only had weapons and some food and water on them. They were professionals who did the dirty work for others and didn't need such burdens. The 2 without a plate should be people from the Song family who didn't accept him and wanted to teach him a lesson or even kill him outside the city. In the end, they were killed by the equipment warehouse. Song family's 3rd elder, I'll remember you. Wang Sheng nodded. This person was very cooperative. Not bad. Wang Sheng slit his throat and gave him a quick death. Standing up, Wang Sheng turned to the person who was leaning against the tree and groaning. The person's injuries weren't fatal. When Wang Sheng was 5 meters away from the person, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 10. The only survivor was in another direction. By the time Wang Sheng calmly walked over, the survivor was already so weak that he looked like he was about to die. However, when Wang Sheng approached him, the dying man pushed himself off the ground with one of his legs and threw himself at Wang Sheng. Judging by the speed at which he threw himself at Kiran, he was definitely an expert among experts. At least, Wang Sheng had never seen such a terrifying man when he was on Earth. Even with such a serious injury, he was still able to unleash such explosive power. Unfortunately, the enemy did not realize how terrifying Wang Sheng's vigilance as an ace sniper was. As he stood up and walked back and forth, Wang Sheng noticed that the man's wound had stopped bleeding. There was no bandage at all, but the big wound was no longer bleeding. How could Wang Sheng not be on guard against such an unusual phenomenon? His right hand had already subconsciously touched the handle of his gun. As the man threw himself at him, Wang Sheng aimed his Glock at the man in the air and pulled the trigger. Bang! A gunshot was fired and the man's chest was hit. At such a close distance, it was impossible for Wang Sheng to make a mistake. A shot to the heart. Even though the man had survived the terrifying explosion in the equipment warehouse, he could not stop the bullet from entering his body. In an instant, all the power in the enemy's body disappeared without a trace. Wang Sheng dodged lightly, and the enemy fell heavily to the ground. The man's mouth was wide open like a dying fish. He breathed loudly, but the light of life was slowly fading away. I am also a level 3 assassin from Carefree City. The man knew that he did not have long to live, so he stuttered, Bao Qing Yu Tang. The man struggled to say Bao Qing Yu Tang's name. His body twitched for a while before he finally breathed his last. Wang Sheng pointed his gun at the man. After a while, the man stopped moving, so he slowly stepped forward and carefully touched the man's carotid artery. After confirming that the man was dead, he put away the Glock and began to search the man's body. Wang Sheng found a silver metal plate from the level 3 assassin's body. The design was exactly the same as the 6 black pieces, but the color was different. This was probably the sign of different levels. This level 3 assassin should be the strongest among the people present. Wang Xing took a closer look at the scene and quickly understood why this level 3 assassin could survive the explosion. The other party was probably very sensitive to killing intent. At the moment of the explosion, he found a big tree and hid behind it. However, the tree was still not big enough to block his entire body. One of his calves and one of his arms were still blown off. This level 3 assassin gave Wang Sheng a huge shock. He did not feel anything when he killed Dai Huan and the guards, but to be able to detect that something was wrong in the blink of an eye and quickly find cover. Even after losing an arm or a leg, he still had the strength to pounce. This world's experts were really shocking. The appearance of an expert made Wang Sheng even more determined to cultivate as soon as possible. If he could not quickly improve his strength, he might be able to survive here for a while with the equipment he had on him. However, if he used up all his equipment and bullets, how long could Wang Sheng live? The most important thing now was to make up for his incomplete soul as soon as possible. However, an incomplete soul required a large number of essence cultivation pills, and Wang Sheng did not have enough money to buy them. Looking at the silver metal plate of Carefree City, Wang Sheng's heart was moved. Perhaps he could use this metal plate to extort some essence cultivation pills from Bao Qing Yu Tang. When Wang Sheng appeared in the city with his backpack and gun box, many people were shocked. Wang Sheng actually came back in one piece. How is this possible? Could it be that all the people who chased after him were useless? Seeing Wang Sheng swagger into Bao Qing Yu Tang, many people hurriedly flew in all directions. The matter of Wang Sheng's return had to be immediately known to the person in charge. This wasn't Wang Sheng's first time at Bao Qing Yu Hall. As soon as he entered, he didn't care if there were any other customers inside and directly shouted at the waiter, "Get your manager here to see me." The waiter did not dare to be negligent and quickly reported. Not long after, the fat manager who received Wang Sheng previously appeared in front of Wang Sheng. He then respectfully invited Wang Sheng to the living room at the back and served him tea. Wang Sheng was not afraid that the other party would poison him and leisurely sipped his tea. The fat manager's gaze inadvertently landed on the backpack beside Wang Sheng and the gun box, which was obviously made of special material. What is the meaning of Bao Qing Yu Tang? Wang Sheng asked unhurriedly after finishing his cup of tea. What are you talking about, esteemed customer? The fat manager did not understand and carefully asked with a smile. This time, Wang Sheng did not answer. Instead, he reached into his backpack and took out the 7 metal plates of Worry-Free City. One by one, he arranged them neatly on the coffee table. The silver metal plate was the first, followed by the 6 black metal plates. The moment the fat manager saw the silver metal plate, his pupils suddenly shrank. When he saw the 6 plates behind it, his small eyes quickly widened as if he had seen something unbelievable. Don't tell me this plate has nothing to do with Bao Qing Yu Tang. Wang Sheng pointed to the silver metal plate with his finger and asked with a smile, "So, I want to know why Bao Qing Yu Tang is looking for a level 3 assassin from Worry-Free City. What is the meaning of this?" Wang Sheng spoke in a very relaxed manner, and his tone did not reveal anything. However, it was this calmness that shocked the fat shopkeeper greatly. The Worry-Free City's killer plate had always been with the owner of the plate. Once the plate left its owner, it could only mean one thing: the assassin was dead. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to throw away his own killer plate. 7 killer plates meant that Wang Sheng had killed at least 7 assassins from Worry-Free City and one of them was even a level 3 assassin. Please forgive me, esteemed customer. Since Wang Sheng had taken out the level 3 killer plate, if the fat manager continued to deny it, he would be playing dumb. Such a powerful expert was not someone Bao Qing Yutang's branch in a small city could handle. If the other party wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as stretching out his hand. Previously, some of the items that esteemed customers sold to my shop had the Dai Clan's secret mark on them. The fat manager was a smart man. If he didn't quickly state his intentions, it might cause a misunderstanding. Thus, he quickly explained, "We are businessmen. We are afraid of trouble, so we asked an expert from Worry-Free City to help us investigate what is going on. We definitely do not have any ill intentions towards esteemed customer." Asking a level 3 assassin to investigate? Wang Sheng had a faint smile on his face, but his tone contained a thick sense of distrust. You want to ask a level 3 assassin to investigate? Who are you trying to fool? Everyone from Worry-Free City is an assassin. The fat manager originally didn't think that this was a problem, but he suddenly remembered that Wang Sheng was a barbarian and didn't know anything about Worry-Free City. Thus, he hurriedly explained, "They also accept some other jobs. Not all of them are assassins. We really don't have any ill intentions." Wang Sheng understood. The people who came out of Carefree City were all assassins, but not all assassins took on jobs that involved killing people. They might even take on jobs such as investigations. Worse still, they might even take on jobs such as bodyguards. Carefree City was an interesting place. However, it wasn't a good time to inquire about Worry-Free City in this situation. Wang Sheng's fingers tapped on the coffee table as if he was thinking about how to deal with this matter. The fat manager's face was covered in cold sweat. He smiled apologetically, but didn't dare to urge Wang Sheng. He also didn't dare to help Wang Sheng on his own. This person was a ruthless character who had killed 7 assassins in Worry-Free City. He was just a manager of a proper business, so how could he dare to be disrespectful? 20 essence fostering pills, and this matter ends here. Wang Sheng's words startled the fat manager. What? The fat manager almost thought he heard wrong and hurriedly asked. 20 essence fostering pills, and I won't pursue the matter of you plotting against me. Wang Sheng didn't get angry and directly expressed his intentions once again. However, I don't want there to be a next time. We'll do as you say. How could the fat manager dare to disagree? It was just a mere 20 essence fostering pills. To Bao Qing Yutang, it was a drop in the ocean. It was definitely worth it to use this price to exchange for the forgiveness of an expert like Wang Sheng. The fat manager's hanging heart finally relaxed. He had just escaped from death. 2 bottles of essence fostering pills were quickly delivered to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng opened them and looked at them. There was no mistake. He stood up and was about to leave. Please take these assassin tokens with you, esteemed guest. The fat manager hurriedly reminded Wang Sheng. If esteemed guest needs the help of Worry-Free City's assassins one day, these assassin tokens can also be converted. He had killed the other party's men and snatched their killer tokens. If he needed the help of Worry-Free City's assassins, these killer tokens could still be converted. This Worry-Free City was really a strange place. Wang Sheng didn't understand the rules of this place, but he decided to take the items first. The moment Wang Sheng left Bao Qing Yutang, the fat manager respectfully stood in front of the veiled woman and quickly reported what had just happened. 7 assassins from Worry-Free City, including a level 3 assassin, are all dead? The veiled woman's expression couldn't be seen, but her tone was full of surprise. It seems that Dai Huan and the others died in his hands. Otherwise, the Dai clan's items wouldn't have fallen into his hands. Should we release the news? Miss, the fat shopkeeper asked for the veiled woman's instructions. Why should we release it? The veiled woman sneered. The Dai clan and the Song clan's internal strife has nothing to do with us. We only do business and don't care about other matters. This time, it is already unreasonable for us to hire someone to investigate. We are businessmen and shouldn't meddle in their affairs. The veiled woman quickly set the tone. I'll say it again. When we do business, it doesn't have gold coins. Other than that, we don't know anything. Yes, young miss. The fat manager quickly replied. Chapter 11. Based on Wang Sheng's previous experience of consuming pills, 20 foundation pills would be enough for Wang Sheng's remnant soul to be completely restored. For Wang Sheng, the most important thing was not to take root here. This place was never his goal. At most, it could only be considered as a passerby. The most important thing was to figure out everything about the Source Soul in a short period of time and understand everything about this world. Then, he could improve his strength as soon as possible. For the time being, Wang Sheng knew that there was only one way to improve his strength, and that was to first restore his remnant soul. As the remnant soul was restored, Wang Sheng's physical condition would be greatly improved. This had already been verified during the process of consuming the medicine. Needless to say, Wang Sheng returned to the small courtyard that temporarily belonged to him. After putting away his backpack and gun case, the first thing he did was to consume the medicine. It took him another 2 days to go back and forth. Wang Sheng had to make the best use of his time to improve himself so that he could find a chance of survival in the upcoming crisis. Wang Sheng did not think that the 7 assassins from Carefree City would not cause any trouble in the future. It was just a matter of time before they came. Wang Sheng had already prepared himself for revenge. In 4 days, Wang Sheng had consumed 12 essence-nurturing pills. Sure enough, as Wang Sheng had expected, his physical strength and endurance had been further improved. On the contrary, his speed had reached a limit and did not change much. It was just simple push-ups and sit-ups. Wang Sheng could do more than 1,000 push-ups with one hand. Carrying a backpack that weighed about 20 kilograms and a gun case, he could also do more than 1,000 sit-ups. This was unimaginable on Earth, but it was extremely easy to do now. The little fish had been restored by 90% and was almost completely restored. The remaining 8 foundation pills were enough for Wang Sheng to achieve this. Perhaps it was because Wang Sheng coming back alive and some people not coming back shocked many people, but at least in the few days that Wang Sheng was taking the medicine, no one came to disturb Wang Sheng. This allowed Wang Sheng to take the medicine to repair his source spirit without being disturbed. Wang Sheng did not know what level his current strength was in this world, but there was one thing he was sure of. Since his soul had just formed, it would not be too high. He estimated that it was just the beginning and there was still a long way to go before he reached the first-degree realm. It was not that Wang Sheng was belittling himself, but a first-degree realm expert would at least have an upgrade in their source spirit. Their strength was definitely not just a simple increase in strength, endurance, and speed. Next, Wang Sheng continued to take the remaining 8 essence-enhancing pills. By the time he took the 4th pill, Wang Sheng's origin spirit was already complete. Strictly speaking, it should have been completed by the 3rd and a half pill. However, Wang Sheng discovered that the remaining medicinal power of the essence-nurturing pill was still being absorbed by the primordial soul, which was used to outline the living environment of the primordial soul fish. This should be the source spirit space that Song Yin had mentioned. Originally, Wang Sheng thought that the little person with battle awareness would guide him, but the little person did not move at this stage. Other than doing the same movements when Wang Sheng insisted on muscle training and optimizing a few movements, it did not help with the construction of the source spirit space at all. Considering that the carp needed to jump through the dragon gate to level up, Wang Sheng did not turn his source spirit space into a lake, but a long river. Of course, the reference in Wang Sheng's mind was the 9 Bends Yellow River. When the conditions were right, Wang Sheng would build a dragon gate upstream of the Yellow River, which would be suitable for the carp to jump through the dragon gate. Since the source spirit had been repaired, the rest was actually a lot simpler. The medicinal power of the essence-enhancing pill contained a huge amount of spiritual power, which was just right to absorb to build the source spirit space. By the time the last essence-enhancing pill was finished, the shape of the Yellow River had basically been completely outlined. This speed was 100 times faster than relying on the source spirit to spontaneously absorb spiritual power to build the source spirit space. But Wang Sheng also knew that this was a problem with the medicinal power of the essence-enhancing pill. Just relying on medicine to build the foundation was not a commendable thing. But as for what to do next, Wang Sheng did not have the slightest clue. Song Yin was also not around. He did not know where she went, and he did not have anyone to ask for help. Soon, a suitable target appeared in Wang Sheng's mind. Perhaps that person should be able to help Wang Sheng learn a lot of enlightenment knowledge. The teacher who pointed at Wang Sheng's nose in front of so many people and told him to get lost was a suitable candidate. There was no teacher more suitable than him to teach Wang Sheng. Get lost. When Wang Sheng found the instructor and asked him again about the enlightenment of the origin soul, the instructor's attitude was exactly the same as before. He pointed at the door and shouted, "Shut up, shut up, shut up. What price does the teacher want? We can talk about it." Wang Sheng had a good temper. Of course, he could not be too arrogant when he was asking for help, so he calmly asked the teacher to state his price. As long as there was a price, everything could be discussed, couldn't it? I don't teach trash. The teacher did not care about whether Wang Sheng's attitude was good or bad. He directly showed his attitude. Trash is not worth teaching. Get out. Of course, Wang Sheng would not get out. The last time he came, he was a newcomer and needed to understand everything, so he did not think of using any means. This time, he had learned a lot. If the teacher still wanted to use this kind of attitude to refuse him, don't even think about it. Since the teacher does not like this, then I will change the question. Wang Sheng was still smiling, but there were a few things in his hands. He smiled and asked, "I wonder, what is the price to kill the teacher?" What appeared in Wang Sheng's hands were, of course, 7 Carefree Cities killer cards. Wang Sheng treated them like a stack of metal cards and played with them, letting out a uniform sound of metal colliding. The sound was not loud, but it was enough to attract the teacher's attention. Originally, when he heard Wang Sheng's last question, the teacher was about to get angry and call for help, but he was suddenly attracted by the sound coming from Wang Sheng's hands. Looking at the killer cards, the teacher's eyes suddenly changed. Even if one did not eat pork, they would still see pigs run. Even if one did not see an assassin, they would still hear of the killer cards of Carefree City. Wang Sheng actually took out so many of them. The teacher's heart sank. He stared at Wang Sheng's hands as if he wanted to see through the killer cards. "These are some small things I picked up on the road. Are you interested, teacher?" Wang Sheng was still smiling. Then he placed the killer cards on the table one by one like he did in Baoqin Yutang, letting the teacher see them clearly. He then asked, still the same question, "If I want to kill the teacher, what is the price?" This time, the teacher saw clearly. The 7 killer cards had the same 2 words, Carefree City, on them. It was clear that these were the killer cards of Carefree City. In this world, other than Carefree City, no one would dare to casually copy the killer cards of Carefree City. They were definitely not fake. Especially the silver killer card. That was a killer card that only a level 3 assassin would have. The killer cards of Carefree City had always been in the hands of the killer card. Now that the killer card was in Wang Sheng's hands, it was clear what it meant. Picked up on the road? Only a ghost would believe that. Regardless of whether this killer card was Wang Sheng's or someone else's, it could only mean one thing. If Wang Sheng wanted him dead, it would be a simple matter. If the killer card was Wang Sheng's, then Wang Sheng could kill him as he pleased. If the killer card was someone else's, just this level 3 killer card alone could easily hire an assassin to kill him. Moreover, Wang Sheng had killed a level 3 assassin and obtained the killer card. Between his own life and the insistence of not teaching a useless person, the teacher decisively chose the former. If he was really a loyal person who would sacrifice his life for righteousness, why would he be cooped up in this small city as a teacher? Therefore, the teacher's tone changed faster than the chameleons Wang Sheng had seen on Earth. "What does young master want to know? This humble one will tell you everything I know." Not only did the tone change quickly, the teacher's expression changed even faster. From anger to a smile, it only took a few tenths of a second. It was comparable to the face-changing master of Sichuan opera. "You see, isn't it good to have a good discussion? Why do you have to hurt people with your words? Isn't that right?" Wang Sheng had a smile on his face from beginning to end, but in the teacher's eyes, Wang Sheng's smile was even scarier than the most terrifying demon's face. Right. Young master is right. The teacher did not dare to sit still. He stood in front of Wang Sheng, his waist almost at a 90-degree angle. At this time, whatever Wang Sheng said was the truth. How could the teacher dare to say anything? Next, the teacher began to fulfill his promise, saying everything he knew without holding anything back. Regarding the enlightenment of the Source Spirit, the teacher began to talk endlessly. Fortunately, this teacher had been in this school for many years. He was originally teaching children, so he had a lot of experience. His words were simple but profound, using the simplest and most straightforward words to explain the enlightenment of the Source Spirit. It was much more professional than Song Yan's rambling explanation. Wang Sheng had finally managed to learn the most superficial knowledge regarding the field of soul arts. He quickly understood. He had just outlined the Source Spirit fish and the Source Spirit space, but it was only in the most basic state. It was still far from being able to upgrade the Source Spirit. After the outline, with the absorption of more and more spirit chi, the outline will become more solid. The Source Spirit fish and the Source Spirit space will have a variety of colors, becoming lifelike. When this step was achieved, the real construction of the Source Spirit space was completed, and the next step was the condition for the Source Spirit to upgrade. Similarly, after creating the lifelike Dragon Gate, the conditions for the Source Spirit to upgrade were met. The next step was to absorb more spirit chi, strengthen the Source Spirit, and at the same time open the Source Spirit aperture points. When the aperture points were open one by one, the speed of absorbing spirit chi would be faster. After absorbing more spirit chi, the Source Spirit would naturally meet the conditions to upgrade, and then upgrade. After the upgrade, more aperture points would be opened, and the person's strength would also increase. Of course, this kind of improvement was not only the improvement of physical fitness, but also the ability to use spirit chi to attack and defend. Compared to purely relying on physical fitness, it was much better. Chapter 12. Satisfied, Wang Sheng left Meng's school. When he left, he was all smiles. What puzzled the crowd was that the instructor who had pointed at Wang Sheng's nose and told him to scram earlier was now sending Wang Sheng out with a smile on his face. The two of them were chatting happily, and there was no estrangement between them at all. This was too amazing. After Wang Sheng left, some curious people went to ask the instructor what was going on. The instructor didn't dare to tell the truth. He could only say that he was moved by Wang Sheng's desire to learn and specially taught Wang Sheng some knowledge about the enlightenment of the origin soul. Of course, people didn't believe it, but it seemed that it was true. The instructor was not stupid enough to tell them that Wang Sheng had 7 killer tokens from Worry-Free City. If Wang Sheng dared to kill killers from Worry-Free City, he would definitely kill a talkative instructor. Wang Sheng finally knew what he should do next. How long would it take for him to absorb spiritual energy by himself with the origin soul? Only relying on elixirs was not a solution. When laying the foundation, it was better not to use tricks like this. This was the instructor's experience. There were so many big families and rich people, but no one used elixirs to cultivate their children at the enlightenment stage. Wang Sheng's origin soul was incomplete, so it was not a big problem to use foundation-enhancing pills. However, after his origin soul was repaired, he didn't need to use this kind of method. Cultivation, 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 cultivation. Practicing martial arts required cultivation techniques. This was the true way to lay a solid foundation. Big families usually had cultivation methods for their clansmen to cultivate. The Song family also had cultivation methods, but Wang Sheng was not a member of the Song family, so he couldn't enjoy the benefits of the Song family. The housekeeper was willing to give Wang Sheng a separate courtyard for the sake of Song Yan's cousin and Wang Sheng's gift. As for the amount of money that was promised, Wang Sheng didn't see it from beginning to end. As for the Song family's cultivation technique, there was no need to even think about it. Wang Sheng did not have such extravagant hopes. Wang Sheng lacked cultivation techniques. According to the instructor's guidance, other than the big clans, some big businesses also had corresponding cultivation techniques for sale. However, there were a few things in this world that were definitely not cheap. Panacea was one of them, and cultivation techniques were another. For ordinary people, they were the most luxurious of luxuries. Coincidentally, in this small city, Baoqing Yutang was one of the biggest shops, and there were all kinds of cultivation methods for sale. However, the instructor expressed that even if there was a cultivation technique, it would only be a simple foundational cultivation technique. There was no way there would be anything too profound. High-level cultivation methods were either in some big clans or sects, or they could only be seen in auctions in some big cities. For the current Wang Sheng, a high-level cultivation technique was simply meaningless. What Wang Sheng wanted was a basic foundation building cultivation technique. If Baoqing Yutang had it, it would be very suitable. The only problem was that Wang Sheng had no money at the moment. A few days ago, he used the Carefree City's killer card to extort 20 Peiyuan pills to repair his remnant soul. However, at that time, Wang Sheng told the shopkeeper that they were even. Now that he had obtained the Peiyuan pills, he would no longer pursue the matter of Baoqing Yutang hiring an assassin to deal with him. If he wanted a cultivation technique, he could only buy it with money. Of course, the equipment and weapons he had on him could not be exchanged for money. They were the capital he needed to survive during this period of time. However, in this world where many things were still in ancient times, it was really not a difficult matter for Wang Sheng to get some money. Among the daily necessities, there were rice, oil, salt, vinegar, tea, and sugar. However, among the things that Wang Sheng brought back from Baoqing Yutang, there was sugar, but it was only gray sugar. It was the crudest type of sugar. It only had a sweet taste, but it looked really ugly. Not only that, there were also many impurities in it. For an expert who had gone through cruel wilderness survival training, all kinds of daily necessities needed to be able to be obtained locally. Not only did Wang Sheng receive training, but he also understood a lot of things. Therefore, the yellow mud decolorization method to make white sugar was almost no problem for Wang Sheng. 2 days later, Wang Sheng carried a fist-sized white cloth bag and leisurely strolled into Baoqing Yutang. In fact, Baoqing Yutang was not the only big business in the city. However, Baoqing Yutang was the largest one. Moreover, Wang Sheng had already made 2 deals with them. Since it was better to be familiar with them than to be unfamiliar, Wang Sheng still chose Baoqing Yutang. In Baoqing Yutang, Wang Sheng was familiar with the place, so he directly called out as soon as he entered, "Waiter, call the shopkeeper, I have business to discuss." The waiter originally wanted to say a few words, but when he saw that it was Wang Sheng, he didn't say anything and took the initiative to invite Wang Sheng to the living room at the back. After serving tea, he went to look for the fat shopkeeper. Not long after, the fat shopkeeper sat opposite Wang Sheng and cupped his hands to greet Wang Sheng with a smile. "I want to sell something." "Shopkeeper, how much is it worth?" Wang Sheng also smiled, looking like a real businessman. He pointed at the small cloth bag beside him and pushed it over to the fat shopkeeper. The fat shopkeeper was not as nervous as he was when he met Wang Sheng last time. They were all doing business, so naturally, they would communicate equally. What happened last time was already over, wasn't it? The fat shopkeeper opened the white cloth bag and looked at the item inside. His eyes immediately lit up. "What is this?" Wang Sheng must have brought something good, but the fat shopkeeper actually didn't know what it was. However, his fair appearance was really pleasing to the eye. "Try it." Wang Sheng smiled and pointed out. He couldn't help but despise him in his heart. He had never even seen white sugar before. Poor man. The fat shopkeeper stretched out his chubby fingers and ungracefully pinched a few pieces of white sugar from the small bag, then put it in his mouth. A pure sweetness spread in his mouth. There was no other taste mixed in the sweetness, nor any other residue. It was really sweet to the heart. This taste, the fat shopkeeper dared to swear that this was the best candy he had ever tasted in his life. At this moment, the fat shopkeeper already imagined how mouth-watering this white sugar would be if it appeared on the dining table of those rich families. "Name your price." Wang Sheng didn't say much and directly asked for the price. 500 grams of gray sugar for 20 copper coins, you white. The fat shopkeeper suddenly didn't know what to call this white sugar. He hesitated for a moment. White sugar, or icing sugar. Wang Xing added. Icing sugar, good name. The fat shopkeeper directly ignored the overly straightforward name of white sugar and chose icing sugar. This choice was exactly the same as the ancient people. At least 1 silver coin per 500 grams. How about that? The fat shopkeeper looked at Wang Sheng and asked, Up to you. If you can sell it for 1 gold coin per 500 grams, then that's your ability. Wang Sheng didn't care how much of 500 grams of white sugar was sold for. Such a small amount of white sugar wouldn't be worth more than a few gold coins. What Wang Xingjin wanted to sell was the sugar-making technique. The method to make this frosting, I'm selling it exclusively. Name a price. This. The fat shopkeeper sucked in a breath of cold air. Selling the method to make icing sugar instead of icing was indeed a big business. Esteemed guest, please wait a moment. I can't make the decision. I'll have to consult the owner. The fat shopkeeper had been doing business for his entire life. How could he not realize that this was probably the biggest business he had ever encountered in his life? At this moment, he couldn't care less if he would expose more of Bao Qin Yutang's secrets. He directly expressed that he wanted to consult the owner. Wang Sheng extended his hand and gestured for the fat shopkeeper to do as he pleased. Sometimes, one couldn't state one's own price when discussing business. Otherwise, one might suffer a loss. It was safer to let the other party state their price and increase it if they weren't satisfied. The fat shopkeeper didn't leave for too long. Of course, when he left, he brought the bag of white sugar with him. In just a few minutes, the fat shopkeeper returned to the living room. However, this time, the fat shopkeeper didn't return as the owner, but as a servant. The real owner appeared, but it was a woman with a veil over her face. This should be the real owner of Bao Qin Yutang. Wang Sheng didn't understand why she would appear in such a small place. Bao Qin Yu Hall was a chain of large businesses. This woman had mysteriously appeared in this remote area where even birds didn't lay eggs. He didn't know her purpose. Of course, the other party's purpose had nothing to do with Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng only wanted to get what he wanted. It didn't matter who he was doing business with. The method to make icing sugar, exclusive sale. The veiled woman sat in front of Wang Sheng and directly confirmed the details of Wang Sheng's business. Wang Sheng nodded. If the owner is interested, please state your price. Seeing that the veiled woman was about to say something, Wang Sheng quickly added, There are many things that I don't understand, and I don't know the market price. Owner, please state your price. If it's suitable, then we'll have a deal. The veiled woman originally wanted to let Wang Sheng state his price, but when Wang Sheng took the initiative to say that he didn't understand the market price, it made the veiled woman feel awkward. It was the nature of a businessman to pursue profits. If the price was too high, she would feel uncomfortable. If the price was too low, she was afraid that Wang Sheng would not be satisfied. It really was a bit difficult. Business is business. How can the honored guest guarantee that this is an exclusive sale? The veiled woman didn't state her price, but first asked a question. I hope the honored guest is magnanimous enough to forgive my rudeness. As far as I know, the honored guest's origin spirit is of an inferior grade. Even if it is an origin spirit oath, it would not have much of a binding force on the honored guest. How can the honored guest guarantee that you will not sell this method to other people? An origin spirit oath was the binding force on many origin spirit experts in this world. After making an oath with their origin spirit, if they violated the oath, their origin spirit would not be able to advance for the rest of their life. This was a kind of binding force in one's heart, and was also a common method used by many experts. If Wang Sheng was an origin spirit expert, then the origin spirit oath could certainly bind him. The problem was Wang Sheng's origin spirit was of an inferior grade, so what if it could not be upgraded? It could not be upgraded, so how could it bind him? Wang Sheng had already learned about the origin spirit oath from the teacher, so naturally he knew what the veiled woman was talking about. The veiled woman's question was indeed a problem for her, but for Wang Sheng, it was not a problem at all. I said I won't sell it, so I won't sell it. Wang Sheng smiled and said, Similar methods, I can easily come up with 10,000 of them. Do you want some salt that is as white as jade? I also know the method. If you have something you want to improve, I can tell you the method, as long as you can pay the price. Do you think that I would ruin my own reputation because of a small method to make frosting?" Once these words came out, the veiled woman did not see anything, but the fat shopkeeper had already sucked in a few breaths of cold air. His whole person was like a monster that only knew how to breathe in and out. Chapter 13. Apparently, the masked woman was also frightened by Wang Sheng's big talk. As a weak woman, she was able to control one of the rarest large businesses in the world, Bao Qingyu Hall, not because of her beauty or luck, but because of her true knowledge and methods in the way of business. But even so, she was frightened by Wang Sheng's casual claim that he could come up with 10,000 methods. Not to mention other things, as long as the snow-white frosting was sold, it would be a world-dominating business, which could make Bao Qing Yutang a lot of money. If there were 10,000 methods, my God, it would be unimaginable. At that time, there would only be one sentence that could describe it. The entire Bao Qingyu Hall would be crushed to death by gold coins. However, could such words be trusted? Since you have these methods, why don't you run it yourself, but give the boss's benefits to us? The masked woman thought a lot and worried a lot, so she asked this question. Of course, she was smart enough not to ask why Wang Sheng didn't give it to the Song family. Not to mention Bao Qing Yutang, the whole Shanglin city knew Wang Sheng's awkward position in the Song family. It was right not to give it to the Song family, but it was unreasonable to give it to them. I'm alone. I have no capital, no manpower, and don't have a huge network to organize goods. What can I do? Wang Sheng replied with a smile. This kind of business can only be done by a large firm like yours. You have both the connections and the goods you need. Besides, my mind is not on business. It's easy to sell you one or two methods. Let me handle everything myself. I don't want to do that kind of tiring work. The masked woman and the fat shopkeeper suddenly understood. One was unwilling, and the other was unable to do it. Only when Wang Sheng said, so could they feel relieved. The two exchanged a look and saw the light in each other's eyes. Our distinguished guest is frank. The masked woman suddenly smiled and said, however, aren't you afraid that we will have evil intentions for you to come here alone? Although our Baoqing Yutang is only a merchant house, we still have many experts. No matter how powerful our esteemed guest is, two fists can't fight against four hands, right? Oh, an expert? Wang Sheng's eyes lit up as if he was suddenly excited. He asked with great interest, I don't know if you mean the two masters outside the wall or the one at the door. Could it be the one sitting in the dark room? As he spoke, Wang Sheng pointed in all directions, seemingly never tired of it. However, as soon as the words left Wang Sheng's mouth, both the masked woman and the fat shopkeeper were shocked. The few at the door and outside the wall weren't considered true experts, so it was normal for them to be discovered. However, there was indeed a dark room on the other side of the living room. The one sitting inside was the real expert that Baoqing Yutang was in charge of the security of the local branch. He was at least a third-degree realm expert. The existence of this third-degree realm expert was only known by the masked woman and the fat shopkeeper. However, Wang Sheng had seen through it. What was even more shocking was that the dark room had been seen through by Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng even knew whether the expert was standing or sitting in the dark room. Didn't that mean that even a third-degree realm expert couldn't hide from him? Looking at the woman and the fat shopkeeper's eyes, Wang Sheng couldn't help but laugh. No one in this world would have thought of something called an infrared telescope. Earlier when he was waiting, he had already used the infrared to scan once. At such a close distance, as long as it was a person, he would be able to see it. Based on the infrared display, Wang Sheng could easily see the other party's movements. I was just joking just now. Please forgive me, esteemed guest. The masked woman was indeed an expert at doing business. When she saw that Wang Sheng had pointed out her arrangements, she immediately apologized and explained, they're only in charge of my shop's safety. They're definitely not targeting our esteemed guests. Are you still interested in the method of making the frosting? Wang Sheng waved his hand to indicate that it was fine. He continued to ask, if you don't want it, I'll ask somewhere else. What do you want? How could the masked woman reject the business that was already at the tip of her tongue? As long as she was doing business, how could she resist this kind of temptation? I don't know what Bao Qing Yutang has. You can give it to me. If it's suitable, we'll have a deal. Wang Sheng had completely taken the initiative and naturally wouldn't lay out his bottom line obediently. Since you're a martial arts enthusiast, I'm sure you'd like a magical weapon. The woman pondered for a moment and took the initiative to speak. A magical weapon? Wang Sheng laughed. Is it better than Dai Huan's sword? Previously, Bao Qing Yutang had hired an assassin from Carefree City to investigate his relationship with the Dai family. Needless to say, the weapons he sold to them would definitely have the Dai family's mark. Wang Sheng didn't care. After all, it was something that everyone knew and didn't want to say out loud. He wasn't afraid of them spreading it. Dai Huan's sword is nothing more than a high-quality weapon with a bunch of valuable accessories. How can it be called a marvelous weapon? As expected, the woman and the fat shopkeeper were not surprised at all when Wang Sheng mentioned Dai Huan's sword. On the contrary, the woman sneered and belittled Dai Huan's sword as worthless. Why would a true divine weapon need so many flashy decorations? As she said that, the masked woman gestured to the fat shopkeeper. The fat shopkeeper nodded and retreated. Not long after, he returned to the living room with a long box in his hands and placed it in front of Wang Sheng. "Mister, you sold Dai Huan's sword to my shop without a second thought. I believe you've already noticed that something was wrong." The woman smiled and changed the way she addressed Wang Sheng. At the same time, she didn't forget to flatter Wang Sheng. That kind of thing naturally wouldn't be able to enter your eyes. "Mister, please take a look at this sword. Is it pleasing to your eyes?" Wang Sheng, on the other hand, did not hold back at all. He opened the box and pulled out an inconspicuous-looking sheathed sword. As soon as he pulled it out, he felt an ancient and cold aura. It was completely different from Dai Huan's sword that they were talking about. In Wang Sheng's eyes, this sword was much more pleasing to the eye than Dai Huan's sword. With one look, he could tell that it was used to kill and had definitely seen blood. However, that was all. It wasn't enough to tempt Wang Sheng. Moreover, Wang Sheng didn't come here for the weapon. However, Wang Sheng's indifferent expression was seen by the woman. She thought that Wang Sheng hadn't discovered the greatness of this sword. She immediately said with a smile, "This is a weapon that the master craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy has spent several years to make. The selection of raw materials alone cost a huge sum of money. After the sword was completed, it was sharpened with the blood of an expert. It can cut iron like mud. I, Bao Qing Yutang, spent a huge sum of money to get it. I originally planned to give it to a master of the main shop. I haven't even given it a name. Mister, you're just in time." After Wang Sheng had digested the origin of the sword, the woman added, "If you don't believe me, there is the mark of the Pavilion of Delicacy and the private mark of the master craftsman on it. Cut iron like mud?" Wang Sheng smiled and asked casually, "Can I try?" "Of course." The woman also smiled. She seemed to have expected that Wang Sheng would have this request. She clapped her hands. Immediately, several ordinary swords were sent in by the door. One of them was very familiar. It seemed to be the sword of one of Dai Huan's guards. It was sold by Wang Sheng. The woman took the long swords and pulled them out. As she said, there were two small but clear marks on the back of the sword. They should be the marks of the Pavilion of Delicacy and a master craftsman. The fat shopkeeper had already picked up two ordinary swords. He held them horizontally in front of the woman. The woman raised her hand. The long sword in her hand chopped at the two swords without hesitation. With two clangs, a broken sword head and a broken saber head fell to the ground. The long sword easily cut the two ordinary swords. Not only the two broken swords, the fat shopkeeper took another two swords. One of them was the sword of the Dai family's guard. The result was the same. The masked woman raised her hand, and the two ordinary swords were easily cut in half. Just as she said, she could cut through iron like mud. After cutting a few weapons, the woman brought the long sword to Wang Sheng with both hands. Wang Sheng took it and carefully examined the blade. It was not damaged at all. When Wang Sheng raised his head, he saw the complacent look in the woman's eyes. It was as if she was saying, this kind of divine weapon must be able to catch your eyes. It is worth that expensive method, right? Wang Xing shook his head slightly and smiled noncommittally. He turned to the masked woman and asked, I also have a small knife. I wonder if I can give it a try? Mister, feel free to do it. The masked woman made a gesture of invitation. Her tone showed that she was very confident in the work of the master craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy. With a light flip of her hand, Wang Sheng's custom-made Tiger Fong army knife appeared in her hand. The black, matte blade was the most convenient to work in the dark. It did not have any gleam of a sharp blade. The masked woman and the fat shopkeeper found it funny when they saw it. It did not even have a normal radiance. It did not even have a reserved radiance. How could it be a good knife? Looking at its length, it was indeed a small knife. Wang Sheng turned a blind eye to their gazes. He casually put the edge of the Tiger Fong knife on the edge of the long sword. This was not a mass-produced Tiger Fong knife. It was a special, custom-made product. Wang Sheng did not believe that a handmade sword could compete with modern industrial technology. Not even the master craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy could do it. Exerting force, Wang Sheng cut the edge of the long sword as if he was sharpening a pencil. The woman and the fat shopkeeper were waiting to see a joke. However, the next scene made the two of them widen their eyes. They were like two country bumpkins who had never seen the Western scenery. Their mouths were wide open. Their expressions were as if they had seen something unbelievable. There was no sound at all. However, Wang Sheng's Tiger Fong saber cut through the longsword like it was tofu, easily slicing off a layer of the longsword's blade. As Wang Sheng exerted some strength, the Tiger Fong saber easily carved out a long strip of metal on one side of the longsword's blade. The sword, which was known to be able to cut through iron as if it were mud, had been painstakingly crafted by the master craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy. Yet, in front of Wang Sheng's small Tiger Fong saber, it did not even have the slightest chance of resisting. In the end, it only proved that another knife could cut through iron like mud. Chapter 14. I'll buy this sword, but it's not enough. Wang Sheng gently placed the master craftsman's sword on the table. With a flip of his hand, the Tiger Fong military knife was put back into its sheath. Then he slowly said this. The eyes of the woman and the fat shopkeeper couldn't look anywhere else. They were directly attracted to the Tiger Fong military knife. Even after Wang Sheng put it away, they were still unsatisfied. They kept staring at the clothes that Wang Sheng had placed the military knife on, as if they could see through it. Sure enough, only a true divine weapon would have its own divine light hidden. Otherwise, how could it be so black and unremarkable? The handle of the knife was neither gold nor wood. Even with the fat shopkeeper's eyesight, he still couldn't tell what material it was made of. This was a true, godly weapon. The work of a master craftsman wasn't even worthy of carrying his shoes. At this moment, the veiled woman, who wanted to show off and see Wang Sheng make a fool of himself, wanted to die of shame. The treasure that she spoke of couldn't even be considered trash in the eyes of others. What was there to show off about? It wasn't until Wang Sheng opened his mouth that the woman reacted. Her face instantly turned red. Even though she was wearing a veil, Wang Sheng and the fat shopkeeper could still see the redness on her exposed skin. I don't dare. Although Wang Sheng said that it was simply impossible for the sword that was cut open like tofu by Wang Sheng to be sold for a sky-high price. No matter how thick the woman's skin was, she couldn't blame the damage to the sword on Wang Sheng. My knowledge is shallow. How could I dare to let Mr. bear the responsibility? I'm ashamed. The fat shopkeeper also had an ashamed expression on his face. His head was so low that it almost touched his chest. It was a miracle that he was able to do this with such a fat body. He really didn't have the face to see anyone. The other party casually took out a treasure that could cut through divine weapons and sharp weapons like mud. Why was his hand so cheap just now? He even wanted to show the other party how he could cut through iron like mud. Wasn't he making a fool out of himself? The fat shopkeeper didn't even dare to raise his head to look at Wang Sheng. He didn't have the face to do so. At this time, it was still the young miss of the main house who came forward. After all, she was a woman, and if she acted coquettishly and shamelessly, she might be able to push this awkward matter away. I was too rash. The masked woman had no choice but to step forward. She was the one who had said that it was a divine weapon. Now, even if she had to swallow the divine weapon, she would have to bite the bullet and swallow it. I'm making a fool out of myself. There's no need for that. It's just bargaining. Wang Xing didn't think much of it. What he wanted was a cultivation technique. Now, it seemed that he would be able to get more benefits. He was happy and naturally wouldn't be calculative. We haven't agreed on the price yet. Let's talk about it slowly. After Wang Sheng showed off the real divine weapon, Bao Qing Yutang, the woman who could make decisions, and the fat shopkeeper, no longer doubted Wang Sheng's words. A master who could casually take out a work that was 100 times better than the work made by the master craftsman of the Pavilion of Delicacy said that he had many ways to improve all kinds of goods. That was definitely more real than real gold. If he didn't work hard to maintain a good relationship with such a big customer, when would he? Moreover, there was a big business right now. As long as he could master the method of making icing sugar, Bao Qing Yutang would be able to take a big step forward easily. As long as Bao Qing Yutang had it, the masked woman would not be stingy. After thinking for a while, the woman's eyes suddenly lit up as if she had thought of a good idea. Sir, last time you went out, you brought back a bag and a box. I think they are very important to you. The masked woman spoke again. This time, she was a lot more confident. There was no other way to cater to Wang Sheng's taste. It didn't matter if Wang Sheng didn't like divine weapons. She believed that Wang Sheng would like these things. Wang Sheng nodded. Of course, the backpack and the box were very important to him. They were the only pieces of equipment he had left. He couldn't get any replenishment in this world. So, he had to attach great importance to them. There was no need to hide it. Those people who were targeting him would definitely target him and everything around him. However, the woman said so. Could it be that she had a way to keep his equipment safe? Wang Xing didn't understand. So, he waited for the woman to speak. This time, I went to the Pavilion of Delicacy to buy a storage ring of the highest grade. The woman looked at Wang Sheng and nodded. She was even more happy. She couldn't help but tell him her price. It can hold things that are 6 feet long and 2 feet thick. It can hold Sir's backpack and long box. Are you satisfied with it? Storage ring? A spatial magic treasure? Wang Sheng was puzzled. He couldn't help but ask what it was. The fat shopkeeper immediately began to introduce it. Everyone knew that Wang Sheng was a barbarian. It was normal for him to not know what a storage ring was. This storage ring was a small portable space. It was made of a unique and rare storage stone. It had its own space inside, which could hold some small things. The space inside a storage ring varied. The small ones were only the size of a head. The largest one was a few feet long and wide like the one the woman just mentioned. It was the best tool to hold things that people were afraid of losing. But because of the limited space, it couldn't hold many things. However, for Wang Sheng, 6 feet long and 2 feet thick was enough to hold his sniper rifle and the equipment in his backpack. Especially this storage ring could be carried with him. It also needed the owner to activate it with their soul. It was simply a good thing specially prepared by God for Wang Sheng. With this storage ring, Wang Sheng didn't have to worry about losing his equipment. He didn't have to carefully put his things away every time he went out. He didn't even have to set up some self-destruct devices. This thing was too suitable. Get it, I must get it. Wang Sheng had made up his mind. He must get this storage ring. However, there was no hint of elation or surprise on Wang Sheng's face. Instead, he said in an indifferent voice, "This storage ring is more or less adequate." Listening to his words, the woman and the fat shopkeeper could hear the hidden meaning in Wang Sheng's words. Barely enough, just a little bit lacking. Perhaps it wasn't that precious, but Wang Sheng should be in urgent need of it. "Sir, please speak clearly." The masked woman breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. At this point, this business was basically a done deal. She just needed to pay a little more. Even the highest grade storage ring was taken out. Could other things be more precious than this? Just give me a basic cultivation technique that I can use. Wang Sheng didn't hide it anymore and set his main goal. The storage ring was a surprise. It seemed that doing business with Baoqin Yutang was the right choice. He had even taken out a high-grade item like a storage ring. So what was a basic cultivation technique to him? Whether it was the fat shopkeeper or the masked woman, their hearts finally calmed down. When they thought about how they could sell large quantities of frosting in the future, a storage ring and a basic cultivation technique, it could be said to be a big profit. At this moment, the fat shopkeeper showed a speed that didn't match his figure. He first disappeared and then reappeared. A small square box appeared in front of Wang Sheng. It should be the storage ring. Then he disappeared and reappeared again. This time, there was a scroll in his hand. It was a list of all the cultivation techniques of Baoqin Yutang's branch in Xianglin City. He let Wang Sheng choose from them. Under the masked woman's guidance, Wang Sheng held the storage ring and carefully tested it several times. In the end, he had to use his own blood to establish a connection between his soul and the storage ring. Finally, the storage ring truly became Wang Sheng's. Opening the storage ring required spiritual qi. At this time, the little person with the battle awareness in his soul space helped him a lot. It easily helped Wang Sheng open the storage ring. Feeling the 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 2 feet high rectangular space, Wang Sheng was really happy. He put the teacup on the table and tested it several times. He was very happy. The masked woman and the fat shopkeeper also saw that Wang Sheng couldn't connect with the storage ring several times. They could see that Wang Sheng's soul was really not that high. If this storage ring was given to a soul essence expert, it didn't need to be too high. As long as they had a 1-star soul and cultivated a little spiritual qi, they could easily establish a connection. There was no need to use the most primitive method of dripping blood. But even so, the two of them didn't have any evil intentions at this moment. Although the grade of Wang Sheng's soul was not high, the things on his body and the things he had done were too amazing. They didn't dare to have any other thoughts. It was also not necessary. As the masked woman had said before, businessmen didn't need to do anything other than business. After Wang Sheng used the storage ring, the fat shopkeeper personally opened the scroll for Wang Sheng. He introduced the various cultivation techniques one by one for Wang Sheng to choose from. Baoqin Yutang's branch store, it was impossible for them to have any high-level cultivation techniques to choose from. They were all basic cultivation techniques. However, basic cultivation techniques were also divided into various categories. According to the different types of soul essences, they were divided into several major categories. The problem was there are only 2 kinds suitable for fish, but they both required at least a 1-star soul essence to cultivate. This put the fat shopkeeper and the masked woman in a difficult position. At this time, they remembered that Wang Sheng's soul essence was not up to standard. In this world, where could one find a cultivation technique that was not up to standard with a soul essence? Wanting to find a suitable cultivation technique was really too difficult. Fortunately, heaven never bars one's way. The fat shopkeeper had been in the branch store for many years, so he was more familiar with the branch store's products. While everyone was in a dilemma, the fat shopkeeper suddenly thought of a cultivation technique. This cultivation technique didn't require many conditions to cultivate. As long as one had a soul essence, they could cultivate it. Moreover, it didn't specify the grade of one's soul. Logically speaking, this cultivation technique should be suitable for Wang Sheng. But the fat shopkeeper found it difficult to speak of it. Wang Sheng noticed the abnormality in the fat shopkeeper. After asking, the fat shopkeeper reluctantly told him the whole story. This cultivation technique, called the primeval chaos technique, was really too low level. It was so low that even children who had just started their cultivation would disdain it. Not only was it low level, but because it was divided into several categories, it only had the most basic cultivation content. There was nothing else. It didn't even have content that was optimized for different kinds of soul essences. In the end, this was a so-called cultivation technique that even ordinary people would look down on. It could be found everywhere, but no one could cultivate it. It was completely a trash cultivation technique. But after listening to it, Wang Sheng's face was filled with joy. Wasn't this the most basic thing that he lacked now? Chapter 15. Wang Sheng also stuffed the scroll of the art of transmutation into his storage ring. Then, Wang Sheng repeated the steps of making the frosting in Bao Qing Yutang's living room with the gray sugar and yellow mud provided by Bao Qing Yutang. He obtained the same result as the frosting that Wang Sheng had taken out before. Thus, he fulfilled his promise and taught the method of making the frosting to Bao Qing Yutang. When Wang Sheng was about to leave, the mysterious owner of Bao Qing Yutang, who seemed to want to continue, casually asked, "I wonder if the salt that is as white as jade can compare to the best green salt?" Wang Sheng smiled, as if he had already expected this question. He casually took out a small bag from his pocket and threw it over. The masked woman caught it and opened it. It was a small bag of fine white, refined salt. It was really as white as jade, without any impurities. Moreover, each grain was extremely fine, giving people a pleasant feeling just by looking at it. She reached out to pick a few and put them in her mouth to taste. The masked woman's eyes immediately lit up. Just as she was about to say something, Wang Sheng opened his mouth first. "The frosting is already a big business. If you add refined salt, do you think that your current Bao Qing Yutang won't die fast enough?" When a masked woman lifted her veil a little to taste the refined salt, Wang Sheng only saw a smooth and beautiful chin and half a cherry mouth. He didn't see anything else. However, this didn't prevent Wang Sheng from giving her a very severe warning. The masked woman was startled, but she immediately reacted. After looking at the white, refined salt for a while, she finally bowed slightly to Wang Sheng. "Thank you for your guidance, mister." Just as Wang Sheng had said, the dominating sugar cream business was already enough for Bao Qing Yutang to make a lot of money. If he added the refined salt, then he would be in trouble because of his wealth. He wouldn't even know how he died. Wang Sheng felt that he had made a few deals with Bao Qing Yutang, and he was satisfied. It was better to do something familiar than to do it raw. That was why he gave them a warning. Otherwise, who would care if they died? After returning to his courtyard, the first thing Wang Sheng did was to store the equipment in his backpack and the sniper rifle's magazine into his storage ring. Seeing those things disappear into the storage ring, Wang Sheng also breathed a sigh of relief. In the following days, he didn't have to worry about the safety of these things. The design of the storage ring was very delicate, and it felt a bit awkward for a man like Wang Sheng to wear it. Moreover, such an eye-catching thing was obviously a storage ring, and it would definitely attract covetous eyes. Therefore, Wang Sheng simply didn't wear it on his finger. Instead, he hung it on a metal necklace together with his military tag, using the storage ring as a pendant. That wasn't all. Wang Sheng spent a whole 2 days just to practice putting things into the storage ring and taking them out at any time. Wang Sheng didn't have enough spirit qi. If he couldn't do this skillfully, he might not be able to take out his equipment in time if he encountered an enemy. That would be bad. Just like how Wang Sheng used to spend a lot of time practicing drawing guns, it was the same principle to take things out of the storage ring. It wasn't until Wang Sheng used his pitiful spirit qi to skillfully take things out that Wang Sheng was finally satisfied. The storage ring had a special characteristic. First, it ignored the weight. Second, whatever was put in would be the same when it was taken out. There was no vibration, and there was no displacement caused by violent shaking. This was a very good characteristic. By ignoring the weight, Wang Sheng didn't have to bear a heavy burden. It was more convenient that it wouldn't be moved casually. The sniper rifle and pistol could be loaded for safekeeping, and there was no need to worry about misfiring. Once he needed to use it, he could take it out and fire it immediately, saving Wang Sheng the preparation work. When Wang Sheng was so proficient that he could take out the pistol, sniper rifle, or other equipment at any time, Wang Sheng stopped and began to study the primordial chaos technique. It was a basic technique, and it was simple. When Wang Sheng opened the scroll of the primordial chaos technique and read it from beginning to end, he suddenly laughed. This primordial chaos technique, Wang Sheng had actually seen it on Earth, and it was a more complete version of the primordial chaos technique. This primordial chaos technique was really the simplest technique. Rather than calling it a technique, it was more appropriate to call a stance. Stand in a stance, concentrate, calm down, and then focus all your mind on the soul, controlling the soul to absorb spirit chi. It was that simple. No wonder it was a basic technique. It was really so basic that it couldn't be more basic. According to what the teacher said, it was really a basic technique for children who had just integrated with their soul to train them to enter the state of cultivation. The reason why Wang Sheng laughed was because this was the only part of the technique. And what Wang Sheng had seen was a complete technique called the Tai Chi Primordial Chaos Technique. It was generally similar. It was all about standing in a stance and calming down, but there was an additional concept of Tai Chi and a little less about the soul. That was all. However, the description and explanation of what Wang Sheng had seen was 10,000 times more detailed than this scroll. On Earth, who knew how many Tai Chi experts had explained this in detail? Back when he was training as a sniper, Wang Sheng had tried many methods to instantly enter a calm state. There were yoga, meditation, visualization, and the like. Among them, he had tried a stance, and it was none other than the primordial Taiji stance. After reading the entire scroll, Wang Sheng didn't need to look at it again. He stood in the middle of the room, slightly bent his legs, straightened his spine, lowered his shoulders, and dropped his elbows. After a moment, he held the ball with both hands, relaxed his body, and quickly entered the state. The soul carp was still in a black and white motionless state, but Wang Sheng began to forcibly imagine a point on the soul to attract spirit chi. This was the explanation in the scroll. The little person with battle consciousness was now in the same posture as Wang Sheng. It seemed that it had also obtained the essence of the Tai Chi Primordial Chaos Technique from Wang Sheng, and its stance was very straight. When Wang Sheng visualized it, he directly imagined that point as a black hole. The little person with battle consciousness also seemed to be helping. Not long after, Wang Sheng noticed that the spirit chi that had spontaneously entered the soul space began to gather towards that point, and the speed began to slowly increase. Active absorption was more efficient than passive absorption. Wang Sheng was very happy. As he continued to visualize, the black hole seemed to be forming little by little, and the surrounding spirit chi was attracted by the black hole's gravity. It didn't take long for Wang Sheng to notice that the speed of the spirit chi absorption was at least 10 times faster than before. But it still couldn't catch up with the thick spirit chi provided by the foundation pill. At this speed, how long would it take for the soul space to become lifelike? When he thought that the Tai Chi Primordial Chaos Technique was missing the word Tai Chi, Wang Sheng's heart moved, and he once again visualized the black hole as a rotating Tai Chi diagram. As long as there was a whirlpool, whether it was water or airflow, it would greatly increase the speed of the flow. Presumably the same was true for spirit chi. With this thought, the little person with battle consciousness immediately felt Wang Sheng's thoughts and began to urge the spirit chi to slowly revolve around the black hole. This improvement took a full 10 hours, and Wang Sheng stood in the same place, maintaining the posture of holding a circle, motionless. After 10 hours, even with the help of the little person with gray shadow, Wang Sheng barely completed the Tai Chi diagram, but he still couldn't make the Tai Chi diagram rotate. The speed of the spirit chi absorption had begun to slow down, and Wang Sheng understood that this was because he was tired and it was time to rest. Slowly taking a few deep breaths, Wang Sheng slowly put down his arm and stopped the primordial chaos technique. He ate and drank some food, then did some muscle training and began to rest. Cultivation was something that needed to be persisted for a long time, and it was not something that could be achieved overnight. Haste makes waste, so Wang Sheng was not in a hurry. As a veteran sniper, Wang Sheng had enough patience. After resting for a long enough time, Wang Sheng even went out to take a look. After confirming that there were no special changes in Xianglin City, Wang Sheng once again entered the state of cultivation. As the primordial chaos technique stood up, the little person with gray shadow took the initiative to help. When Wang Sheng finally pushed the Tai Chi diagram on the carp's body to rotate, he finally felt the feeling of the spirit chi rushing into his body like a tide after taking the essence cultivating pill. A spinning Tai Chi cyclone was formed on the carp's body. At first, it was rotating very slowly, but as the Tai Chi cyclone became faster and faster, it finally stabilized at about one rotation every 10 seconds, and the speed of the spirit chi entering the carp also reached its maximum. According to Wang Sheng's estimation, the speed of the spirit chi absorption was about 10 times faster than when it was not rotating, and it was even a little faster than when he took the essence-cultivating pill. A large amount of spirit chi entered the soul, and right before Wang Sheng's eyes, the soul began to slowly change again. Strands of red lines appeared on the carp's body, just like the black lines at the beginning. Soon, they covered the edges of the carp's body, and then they began to outline the fish's scales, slowly forming a complete outline. Inside the carp, the Tai Chi Yin and Yang cyclone rotated steadily, and Wang Sheng did not need to use any visualization to push it, it would maintain itself. At this point, Wang Sheng finally stopped. The feeling of a large amount of spirit chi sweeping through his body was really comfortable, especially the feeling of the spirit chi nourishing his internal organs bit by bit. It was even more refreshing. According to the teacher, in the enlightenment stage, the basic cultivation method would absorb spirit chi, and it would first nourish the skin and muscles, then slowly move to the internal organs. When even the bones and bone marrow were almost completely nourished, the enlightenment would be considered successful. At that point, one should plan to build the conditions to upgrade the soul and prepare to break through to the first stage. Now, Wang Sheng had reached the stage of nourishing his internal organs in less than 10 days. If the teacher knew about this, he would definitely be shocked. Even if there were no outstanding geniuses in Xianglin City, the teacher had seen many outstanding seedlings over the past few decades, but from nothing to Wang Sheng's stage, it would take at least 3 to 4 months. Like Wang Sheng, who needed to supplement the remnant soul to reach this stage, there was no one else. The only thing that could prove that Wang Sheng's soul was not in the mainstream was one thing. Wang Sheng had only developed one acupuncture point. The reason why Wang Sheng's carp soul was classified as not in the mainstream was because there were too few acupuncture points that could be developed. Less than 5, it was not in the mainstream, and Wang Sheng was the worst among the non-mainstream, with only one. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.